What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the
This is what you're
Comcast.
going to have to listen to.
Yeah.
My bad.
I am Ryan, your host, and joining me, as always, is Cody. We have two special guests on the episode.
No. We have a guest, and then he brought a plus one.
Okay.
This is the wedding.
No. Look, here's the deal. I listen to Rogan and I listen to all these other podcasts, and these guys come in and they have like their agents with
A fucking
them.
posse.
Yeah, they have people with them, and I was just like, I don't have that, but I could.
Yeah.
So I got Grant.
I know a guy.
I know a guy who's not doing anything today.
The best thing.
I bet he'll eat breakfast burritos.
So welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope you enjoyed the Cody Eichert episode. It was a very special episode. Especially, I loved it a lot. So let's get into it.
Cody Eichert is definitely Comcast approved.
Yeah, he is.
We need to get that stamp. Just
And
like
since
one of those red stamps, we just stamp everybody's forehead before they leave. Just Comcast approved.
Since he's starting to blow up and become famous, like another guest we have here, starting to blow up and become famous.
Grant.
Grant.
Grant, what are you doing?
It's good to be here for a second time, everybody. A lot going on in my life. Still working at the gas station. Started working a few days a week at a nursing home, dishwasher. And
Oh, do you work with Sam Bob?
I do, yeah. Another friend of the podcast. I kind of know everybody.
Speaking of which, Sam Bob, come on, everybody.
Oh my god! If Sam Bob would just walked in the fucking door, it would be the most insane podcast.
Yeah,
ever.
I would walk right out the door. I'm just kidding. I love Sam Bob. I'm kidding. I've not seen him for too long.
Welcome, Jake Ruble and Grant Volkmar, everybody. Yeah, welcome. The Wedding Crashers pair of the Comcast right now.
Yeah, I don't do podcasts without Grant anymore. It's kind of I only do mics with Grant, and I only do podcasts with Grant. So
We don't do comedy together, but we are usually in the same room when it's happening.
Gotcha.
Actually, I have not seen Grant in months, and I use this as an excuse to... I was like, I gotta go do a podcast. Dude, you want to come with? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, I'm not telling him. Just show up.
Pleasant surprise, definitely. Pleasant surprise. Well, welcome back, fellas. Good to have you back again.
Yep.
We
You
know
don't get to talk anymore.
we know the world. We know the world is in a crazy, crazy time right now, but we're glad both of you can show up.
Yeah.
So what's been going on, Jake, Grant? What's been going on with you guys?
You open up. You're the true guest.
If I open up, you'll never get to talk. I think we all know.
Grant, what's been going on with you, you gas station dandy?
What's going on with me? I'm still doing stand-up once a week, trying to work. I started smoking pot during the day, which is a thing I try to not do, but it's been so gray and gloomy that I just started making excuses for it. I started taking like hour and 10-minute showers. This comedian, Gerard Carmichael, he has a bit where he goes, I shower for 2 albums. And I'm about there at the moment.
Why do you try to avoid smoking pot during the day?
Because it makes me fuzzy. Like, I know that, like, I can't find references. Like, if I'm trying to make a joke or something, I'm like, it's like that one movie, you know, it's got Natalie Portman in it. Like,
That sounds like this podcast.
Yeah. So I feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
But it just makes me kind of not feel all myself. Where then if I smoke at night, I can, like, I go on like a little tear where I eat whatever I want, I watch whatever I want, I go to sleep whenever I want.
And it doesn't matter because you're not going anywhere.
It doesn't matter. And then during the day I can be very up and with it, and I can be jaunty and excitable.
A normal person.
Yeah, exactly. Not having 4 conversations in my own head while people look at me and talk at me. And yeah, so I try, but I've fallen back into it a little bit. I pulled back out this week, but I don't know. What are people supposed to do in January and February in the Midwest?
Exactly.
Other than like get depressed and start like keeling over.
That's literally why I joined the YMCA. I'm just like, I want to see somebody swimming. That's
other people having fun makes me happy.
That water slide there says it's for 2 to 4 year olds. I want to see somebody big go down it now.
That's when you just convince somebody, like, dude, you should go down that slide.
It sounds like a double dog dare winning that.
I would do. I would walk up to the nearest big person and be like, man, you should go down that slide. Like,
You won't do
no,
it.
it's not.
You won't do it.
I probably won't.
No. I mean, that's just what you do to them.
Oh, yeah.
That works. Like, that's the nice thing about being the sober guy all the time.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I have a monthly D&D campaign that I do with a couple my childhood friends. They're not kids now. That'd be weird. They're from my childhood.
A couple of my childish friends.
They grew as I did.
Yeah.
That was... edit that too. No, I'm just kidding. But they... Pretty much all of them drink the whole time that we're playing. So by the end of the quest that we're on, they're drunk. And then I'm still sober. So they'll say something about, you won't do that. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm just like, you won't do it. I bet you won't do it. You won't do it. You won't kiss him.
I'm glad it's not kids now.
Yeah. So from both sides, is it funner to be the sober guy?
Yeah.
And you see all the dummies, like everybody.
Okay, so it's weird because the thing is that it's funner the next day for sure.
Yeah.
And it is like, I do like the feeling at times of being the guy that's in the room. And I'm not saying like they always get like just crazy drunk or anything.
No, that's what he said. They get drunk and they kiss. We all heard it.
I mean, it's not happened. but like, just being the guy that at any point I could just be like, all right, well, I'm leaving. Is nice.
Right.
Instead of just being like, well, I'm stuck here.
Right.
Like, I have to be here now.
Right.
That's nice. I'm in a weird place, man. Like, I've been sober for going on 13 years now. And I just now... Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. That was weird. That was a weird, depressing clap. You guys are all just like, what else are we going to do in the Midwest? And I'm like, I do other things.
I would like the audience to know that was me, Grant Volkmar, clapping for sobriety.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Salute.
Because he can't be.
The most non-sober person here.
No, but it's cool.
There's no evidence of that.
I literally just hit the point last year to where I no longer want to not be sober. Like, I just hit the point where I'm just like, oh, this makes me happy. Because before it was just a struggle the whole time. And I'm sure that, there's going to be times where I'm just like, this would be a lot easier if I had some Xanax.
Yeah.
But because that was my big... Alcohol and pills were like the two things that were the hardest for me.
Right.
Just because, A, they're really easy to hide, and B, they're the funnest. But I just, like, it was pretty cool. Oh. Hey.
Hey, sorry I didn't pick up the phone. I was just asleep.
Oh, really? You're just sleeping at 2 o'clock in the afternoon like your dear old dad? Why don't you grow up? Hey, if I call you, you answer. You hear me? I'm your father and I pay this phone bill. Hey, go outside and get that package and put it in my room. If that board... Oh, good, because that board game is messed up at all. You're messed up. You hear me?
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. You don't sound so scared. Okay, are you feeling okay? You slept a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm doing a podcast with my friends, so I have to go.
Okay, bye. I love you.
I love you too. Bye. I have no idea who that was. That's weird. That was one of my D&D partners. Well, I'm sorry that I did that, but there was a package delivered to my house. Like, I got the text from Amazon, and they just threw it on my porch, and it's nasty out, and it's a board game. And I'm like, nope.
Like a nice board game or like Monopoly?
No, I don't play Monopoly. No. Do you want to get into this?
No, I mean, I have 6 fucking days.
Oh, man. I have so many board games. Like, so that can tie into what we're talking about because I am an addict. Like, no matter what, I'll always be addicted to something. Mm-hmm. It's just that I've substituted my abuse for just a different abuse.
Right.
And it does change throughout the years. Like, it changes to different things. And right now, I'm obsessed with board games. Like, just like tabletop games. I don't know what you call it because I'm not like into it enough to know like the terminology, but I guess it's advanced board gaming, or like I just call it next level.
Okay.
Right.
Because it's almost like if you play through like Monopoly's like playing Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
You know.
Well,
it's
Monopoly plays itself, doesn't it? It's just
Basically.
wherever you land, you buy, and then you try to acquire.
well, I mean, there's
everybody else's
strategy. There's strategy to it
Okay.
for sure, and there's lots of anger that comes from it.
I've always thought Monopoly was like a game just based around seeing how you could cheat your friends and family.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whoever knew the banker the best, you start slipping tens here and there, and they
Well,
start
you
slipping
also-
20s back.
But you also learn that if you're in a position of power, such as the banker, you can manipulate everyone around you and be a scumbag.
Yeah.
Oh my
So-
god, I want to be president.
That's.
You just made me realize I want to be president so
Oh,
fucking
man, I
You
would
bad.
have
love that.
3 votes, right?
But, yeah.
But I apologize for nothing.
So, but like, if Monopoly is like Mario or even Tetris, let's say Tetris, like, because Tetris is such a big deal. Everybody played Tetris when
Right.
it first came out. So it's like Monopoly, Tetris, you know, those kind of, they kind of go together. But then once you start getting to like Metal Gear Solid or like more advanced video games that have like a storyline and stuff,
Yeah.
those are the games I play now.
Right.
I'm playing like games that have an in-depth story, and sometimes I'm playing them by myself.
Right.
And this is a thing that we should probably address. Is it weird that I play board games solo?
Like multiplayer board games.
No, like I'll play a board game, like an actual board game by myself. Is that weird to you guys?
Kind of.
I mean, if you're just like, and then you roll the dice and it's like 6, fuck you, and then like you're pointing at people.
No.
I mean,
Okay,
you're just
so let
like,
me give you an
your
example.
turn.
Yeah,
Jay.
is it like a tea party, or is it like you're just going, like you're going on an
the game
adventure
has-
by yourself?
Yeah, the game has solo mode.
I mean, there are
Gotcha.
adventure video games that are like that.
See, that's what I was going to say, because I feel like I get a bad rap for playing solo board games, but then the people are like on their phones playing Candy Crush
Right.
and stuff. And I'm like, I'm just doing a more interactive thing than you
Right.
are.
Yeah, I feel like if you ask somebody straight out, like you asked us, they would be like, yeah, that's weird. But if you actually think about it, it's kind of like playing a computer on like a game.
That's it. Yeah. So
it's
like,
art, isn't it? Like a good board
okay,
game.
here's an example.
Do you like
Yesterday-
roll dice and you get 10 coins and you're like, yes? Or are you just like playing the game?
I don't. Okay, let's talk about this.
Like,
So
are you your own
You know
papa
me.
cheering you on?
You know me enough to know you're setting me up. That's the issue. Yesterday I played a game called Hero Realms, okay?
Yeah.
And it's a card game. It's a deck building card game. It's for at least two, I think it's 2 to 4 or whatever. But I always play it against like one of my kids or my wife or a friend or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great game, but I bought an expansion pack that lets you play a campaign solo. So
Okay.
basically you have like an adventure book. So I have like a boss I have to beat. So there's a card for the boss. You set them across the table from you, and that's their quote unquote seat at the table.
Right.
And then you have these cards, and you're building your deck as you go, and then you reading through the adventure guide, and it's telling you like what's happening next in the story, and you go through and you have to destroy this boss before they and they have their own deck, and you're flipping over each card.
So it's basically a video
there's-
game turned into a board game.
Yeah, so I do that. Now, there was a time yesterday where I beat the boss. And it's the first time I played this game, and I beat the boss, and I didn't think I was going to win, and I was just like, boom! And Chia was asleep in the same room, and she had to work, and she goes, and she just, real quiet, she goes, did you just boom yourself on a card game? And I was like, you've never boomed playing solitaire? So yeah, I guess
Solitaire is the perfect example because lots of people play solitaire, and that is the lamest of all board games.
Yeah.
it really is.
So-
But I also used to like playing solitaire.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of, sometimes I just don't feel like playing a video game. And I love video games, but every
Right.
now and then I'm just like, I don't want to stimulate that part of my mind.
Well, it's
Ah.
hard to get like a group of 5 people down to play an extensive board game
Yeah,
sometimes.
right. Yes,
like that
especially
is
right now.
That's an adult party, pretty much, just
Yeah.
to get enough people over to do
That's
that.
like us trying to play Cards Against Humanity with our Pentecostal friends.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard to play that.
What about a backslidden Pentecostal friend? That's me.
It would definitely be even more fun.
I was actually going to say, as a clean comedian, known as a clean comic, when it's on social media that I went on the Comcast, I feel like people think I backslid. if I feel like I have to say, thanks, the Cummings brothers. Like, this is their name.
Yeah.
I have to specify.
If everybody listens to this that follows Jake's stuff, go to episode 111. The title says "Not a Sex Podcast." We talk for 30 minutes about it.
Yeah.
You can't have a sex podcast and drink a kale shake. All right, you can't do that. It's just weird.
Well, Jake, I mean, sometimes you got to go to hell to bring the boys back. Bring them back. Somebody's got to save them.
I feel like whenever I first was deciding to leave church, that was the kind of stuff I would say. It's just like, well, I'm going in that bar. I'm going to get them.
I was in the campus ministry.
I still love God, just so everyone knows. It sounds like I'm
challenging that.
I feel like I'm like, I left church. I'm going to hell. No, I just don't go to church actively.
That's who he's actually playing the board games with, is God himself.
Boom!
He's here!
Yeah. No, I'm sober.
When I was I lived in Florida for a year after high school.
Who's the guest here?
When I was...
You said he's not going to be able to talk, and he's like, fuck you. That's a challenge.
I literally brought Grant so I could say that just now. No, please go on.
Oh, am I allowed?
We can totally just leave your name out of the podcast
Do it.
file. Everybody's like, why is Grant there?
Do it. Don't put that. Okay, as the actual guest, I don't want to share the marquee with him.
Okay.
You know, you can put featuring.
We all know
But I'm
the
the headliner
episode. The
here.
episode I was on, Gas Station Dandy, is the #1 most downloaded episode in the history of the Comcast.
Second.
Hey! That's why you brought me along.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
sucker.
I'm riding your
You can
coattails.
totally have more, but like you said, it's the Cumcast. And Laugh and Be Blessed doesn't mess with the Cumcast. It sounds super weird. Like, we can't have a crossover.
I don't know, man. This is we can make a real weird situation happen.
If you do the Comcast right, you'll probably laugh and be blessed.
See, this is why I should have brought you. Because you make it weird.
There for the puns. He's there for the
So,
puns.
when you were in Florida for 1 year, Grant,
I was still in church. I grew up very religiously, and I moved down there to be a part of a campus ministry at the University of Florida, which I didn't have good enough grades to attend. I was in community college down the street, but I was in that campus ministry, and there were guys that would go to frat parties in that campus ministry, and their justification would be like, how are we going to evangelize them if I don't go where they go?
Right.
And I always thought that was hilarious. It was just like, well, if I don't, meet Dylan in his natural habitat, how can I tell him about God?
I feel like they need to watch more Kevin Costner films. They'll come to you. They're gonna come to you, man. That's what Comcast is about, is bringing people to us. Come to us.
yeah,
You know? That's what it's about.
don't be afraid of the name. It's just the title, right?
The people from different walks of life.
Yeah, we're super big in India. Like, I don't care.
No.
For some reason, my podcast is picking up in Australia.
Right? Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
We got a few in Australia.
We
but
have,
we're
we
starting
have
to hit
had
the-
one. We have had one since the beginning in Australia. One person.
It's probably the same one.
Probably.
Yeah.
They're just probably like, I'm gonna listen to every podcast no one else listens
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. you're a rebel.
to. Yeah. I like
be
the
like-
underdogs.
Like we're more in like Europe and like Germany and stuff like that right now, but we're starting to, once we like accepted India in like their platform
Yeah, their
into
bandwidths.
our host category, they it just exploded.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
How many listeners do you guys have in India?
We're almost up to
I don't know how
1,000
many
a month.
listeners we
Wow.
have, but
Yeah.
Hello, India. It's me, Grant, from the second most downloaded podcast in the history of Comcast.
The most downloaded is one that Cheyenne guest just came in as a guest for the last half, and it's just like we just talk about nothing. Like it's not even like we had a
it
great
was
time.
old love and goddamery.
Yeah, it's like
That was the title.
That's our number one most downloaded. Comcast, old love, perfect.
I wonder if it
match.
was the old love or the goddamery that got people in
I don't know. I don't know, man.
I don't know.
You
either.
guys must be like a window into America for some of these people,
have to be.
right?
It's
It
a
has to
fat
be.
white America.
Well, he said America.
That's very true. I just expanded it more.
No, I feel
Awfully redundant of you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like when people first listen, they're just like, yes, it sounds like a good time. And then when you came on, you're just like, this just sounds like a freaking goofball session. Like that's
Well, remember
what
I
it is.
had listened to it with my girlfriend Siobhan that morning,
Yeah.
and she's like, wait, so is the premise just like two brothers talking to each other? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. That's it. Like,
There is no premise.
There's no premise.
There
It's
is no
just,
premise.
They are brothers.
Yeah.
They are talking to each other.
Yeah, we do a beer of the week and a book of the month, and like that's
Oh, you do a book of the month?
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys do that.
What's this
Talk
month's
about what's
book?
this month?
It's Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness.
Okay.
It's his it's post his first year of living with 100% self-love.
Oh.
So it's
I've
actually
seen the movie.
It's actually
You mean Queer Eye? The
No,
TV
Over the
show?
Top.
Oh,
Over the Top.
That's what I said. I was like,
So
is
that's
the
the
arm
plug,
wrestling?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Whenever you
no.
said over the top, I was like, there's
No.
a book.
I was like, oh, is it the
I
arm?
got in my truck.
Is it the arm? Is it the arm wrestling? He's like, no, it's Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, and I was like, oh, that's a lot less interesting.
No,
I
it's
love
actually
Jonathan.
very
I love
That's cool.
Jonathan so much.
if it,
He is like the son. Like that's who should actually be president.
he's
is
my
Jonathan.
spirit animal.
He is.
This is Cheyenne talking through me. He's like,
Yeah.
he's my spirit animal.
The book that I'm reading. So do you guys like read?
I read all the books
He does.
prior to doing the review and the book of the month.
How many books a month do you think you read?
Well, I get through probably 1.25, 1.5, maybe.
Okay. Do you physically? Now I don't judge because I
Right.
listen to books as well.
Right.
And I count that as reading.
Right.
So do you listen to them or do you
Up to
physically read
this, so
them?
I listened to Over the Top, but the last book of the month I read, and the one before that I read.
Okay.
So
'Cause
it's
count
almost half
I
and
count it
half.
as reading. It's
It's
still
almost
going in
half.
your brain.
I think Audible and just listening to audiobooks is a way to just absorb all that information so much faster.
Yeah.
But no, I listen and read about half and half.
Okay.
If I like sometimes I'll just go on a binge and I'll listen to like 3 or 4 and then I was just like I want to hold something. I want to smell the freaking pages, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's a weird nostalgia thing.
No,
but-
I'm the same way. I prefer to read.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
physically read, but I also really enjoy Audible. Like if I'm
Right.
in the car and stuff like that, especially if I'm driving to like a show and I have like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm by myself, like if my wife and kids are with me, then I'm not going to do that.
Right.
But if I'm by myself, I like listening to biographies a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes if I slack off and I'm like, man, the month's coming up, I got a week to read this book. I was like, I'm going to listen to it.
Well,
1.5 times.
the physical copies, though, it's harder for me to read nonfiction for some reason. Audible, I like nonfiction better.
Right.
But if I'm reading it, I like Stephen. I read Stephen King a lot.
Right.
Probably more than anything is I read Stephen King.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck in a book right now that I shouldn't have started.
Really?
Well, because I'm reading the Dark Tower series,
Okay.
and they're really good books, but to me, the middle of the books are rough.
Right.
They usually start out pretty decent, and they end, like Stephen King stories end the best out of any books I've ever read.
Right.
But I'm on the 4th book now, and it's 1,000 pages, and I'm stuck on like 350. And it's like I'm crawling now, just like okay, we'll read 10 more pages today. Just get
Right.
through it. And I hate that.
Right.
It's just like, dude, maybe just edit down.
Right.
Just edit down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
But then also it's Stephen King, and who am I to tell him to do anything?
No.
Wasn't the It? Have you read the It book?
No, because I have kids.
Yeah, wasn't it like a giant book? Or
Most of
something
his
like that?
books are.
Yeah.
Like most of them. My wife will not read Stephen King books because she says all you do is complain about them until the end, and then you're like, oh, that was the best book I ever read. And she's like, you complained about it for 4 months.
Right.
She's like, it took you 4 months to read one book.
Right.
And at the end of it, you yelled "boom."
The last the last book that I had that reaction was when I read Where the Crawdads Sing, and by Delia Owens, I think is what the author's name is. And I read the whole thing in like 2 to 3 weeks. And at the end, like the last 2 chapters, she was like just doing her hair, getting ready to work, like going out. And I'm just like sitting here reading, and I got to get ready to leave. And I finished the book, and I'm just like, oh my God,
It's so good.
just freaking out. Just like, I was like, you got to read it.
And that's how I am too. Like whenever I finish a really good book,
Right.
I want. It's like this weird. I don't know if it's like that weird Christian gene in me or what. Where I'm just like, you also nailed it. It's just like, I want to show you the light.
Yeah.
But then hardly anyone around me reads.
Right.
So then whenever I'm like, dude, this book, and they're like, oh, another book, Jake. And I'm like, play board games and read with me, please.
So that's like, so January's book of the month was The Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and I went in deep. I read that thing in like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and it's about a religion. Basically.
Yeah. I've heard the religion.
So I went in hardcore, and I
Too
was
fucking
messing
hardcore.
around for part of it,
No, you
but then
weren't.
I started to feel a little comfortable, and I was like, "You're getting in deep, man."
It was like everything we talked about. You're like, you know what that's like? Flying spaghetti monster. And I was
It's
like,
basically-
Well, see, no, but that's the issue
Right.
with quote unquote religions
yeah,
is that they have to make some sense
Mhm.
or
Right.
they won't work.
right.
So then if you're somebody that's open-minded and you start looking into it, you're just like, oh, I see how people can do this.
right.
And that's my issue with cults.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's my issue
I
with
said that
cults.
is because he'd come in and he had a plastic Betty Crocker strainer on his head, a red one, and then the next week we come in and he upgraded to a stainless steel one. And I was like, this is how they fucking get you.
Well, but in all honesty, you know, whenever it comes down to it, most of the issues, and I don't know what's because I haven't, and I don't want
Right.
to talk about it because I'll get into it.
I've got the book if you want to borrow.
I can't read Stephen King for the next 4 months.
Well, let me know when you come back on, and I'll let you borrow it.
Yeah, so, but the thing with cults, where they always mess up, because I have a friend that we look almost identical. So much so that it's weird. Like, I'll show you a picture in a minute. It gets weird because we look the same way like 15 years ago, where I was clean shaven, he was clean shaven. Like, it's weird. And we didn't grow up together. We didn't know each other until like
Right.
last year. But we talked about how we should start a cult. And it started as a joke. And then was just like, well, maybe it's okay. Because the issue, so here's where cults mess up, is there's always one guy running the cult, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, it becomes all about money and sex.
Right.
So he wants all the possessions, and he wants to have sex with everybody.
Right.
So I'm okay with not having sex with people.
Right.
You know, I'm happily married. You know, I'm okay. I don't need any of that, and I'm pretty comfortable being poor. I've been poor
Right.
for a long time. I'm okay with it, so I don't need any of that. And then he feels the same way. So then we're like, well, what if we ran a cult? We could just keep each other in check.
Right.
But then it comes down to what's the point?
Right.
It's like at that point you're just hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
You know,
See, that's-
but I want to wear robes.
Right.
You can't even get a board game together. You're gonna try to get a cult together.
That's the vibe that's the vibe that me and him give off sometimes, just dicking around. We're just like, yeah, it's the pig milking cult. And people are like, what the hell is that? It's just like, hey, I don't know. You can make it what you want.
Yeah.
So basically, we talk about
Where did that start?
The milk the pig thing?
Yeah.
So when we before, like,
Because it's the dirtiest sounding thing I've ever heard.
So
I've actually heard I grew up on a farm,
right.
and my uncles always say that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like it was just they said pigs before, but it's usually chickens.
Right.
They're like, I gotta go milk the chicken. I'll be right back. The look on your face just now was disgusting.
Yeah,
So
You need to farm up, boy. Put a flannel on, for God's sakes.
So years before the podcast even started, I was talking to one of my friends, and we were just talking about like he was having a rough time and I was having a rough time, and we were just talking, and I was just like, man, sometimes you just gotta, when you fall off the horse, you gotta get back on. You just gotta milk that pig. You just gotta milk life sometimes. And he goes, you gotta what? I go, you just gotta milk that pig. Just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you milk a pig? I was like, well, like normal.
How do you not know how to milk a
I was
pig?
like, I assume.
It's got boobies, so.
But I was like, milk that pig. And then I was just like, and I said it in front of him one time, and he's just like, what are you talking about? I was like, let's just go with it. And when we ended the first episode that we did together, like a year and a half ago, they're just like, yeah, when life gets hard, life gets you down, just milk that pig. Because you don't want to have to milk it, but sometimes you got to.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It makes sense.
No one
I
wants to
think.
milk the pig.
Yeah.
And the people that do, I don't want them in my life.
Now we've talked about like buying the hashtag milk that pig because we use it in everything. And I got we made t-shirts for Ryan and I and Cheyenne. And then on the back, just down the spine, it just says hashtag milk that pig. It's just the front logo of the podcast. They're actually pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much where it came from. And it sounds completely gross, but it's kind of like our aura now. Everything's pig themed. I even got a pig coffee mug right now.
I mean, hey, yeah, it's almost the same color as your shirt. I mean,
you gotta go with it, man.
yeah, I like it. That's why it was easy for me. It's just that is me.
Yeah.
My logo's just
Right.
just me.
Just your face.
Exactly.
That's it.
I mean, Sam Bob's sister drew our logo, so I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
It's like, what do you guys want? We're just like, just us. Just us. Just us.
Well, that was kind of my thing is that Bob East, do you know Bob
Yeah.
East? So Bob was at a show one time, and it was just an open mic. It was not a show, it was an open mic. But afterwards, I sat down next to him, and I just looked over, and he was drawing me.
Right.
Because he's a cartoonist, and he was drawing me. And I was like, oh, man, that's pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, and he gave it to me. And then I messaged him and was just like, can I just use this? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I like it. Can I just use it as a logo? And he's like, yeah, sure. He's like, hold on a second. And then just sent me a better one. That's just my face. And I was like, thanks. Like, do I have to pay you now? I don't know what to do.
So when we were talking with Say Bob's sister to which if you guys like her art, it's at Tripping Bunnies.
I think it's
Instagram.
at Bunny Skull now.
But it's at Bunny Skull. Sorry, but when she was drawing, we were talking to her about drawing the image. I was like, Ryan just sent me a picture of you, and she was like asking for instructions, and I was like, yeah, just us toasting a beer. And she's like, what do you want the beer to say? It was like nothing at all, no copyright or anything like that. So just blank beer bottle. And Ryan's like, I was like, what do you want? And he's like, just tell her to make me not as fat. He's like, I can be a little bit bigger than you, but just like, don't make me look like a fat fuck.
Dude, that's so funny because a while back, so I'm on. There's another podcast I do like once a month with these guys. Out, one guy lives in Montana, and the other guy lives in North Carolina, and he was like. We want to get some caricatures or whatever. We'd like to get some cartoons for the podcast. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool, man. And I have a friend who she does that kind of stuff. And I was like, can you draw us? And she's like, yeah. So she drew him, looked just like him.
Mm-hmm.
She drew the other guy, looked just like him. And she drew me. And I'm like, that's not, I wish I looked like that. I was like, that's a handsome guy. And then I was like, is that what she sees when she looks at me?
That guy has a girlfriend in every state.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, well, you nailed my
like-
essence.
That's when Brad Pitt grew that shit out and looked scruffy like that. Google a picture of Brad Pitt scruffy. That's exactly what it looks like.
So I don't know if you guys have been paying attention.
Like 90s, like when he was dating Jennifer Aniston. Yeah.
Scruffy Brad Pitt.
Right, yeah. No, to the left.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So that's funny because I don't know if you guys noticed, but on my Facebook, for some reason, all of a sudden, people started doing that like side by side of me.
Uh-huh.
To where like people would be sending me messages,
Yeah,
and they're just like, "You look like this guy," and it was most of it was like. The first one was Teen Wolf.
Uh-huh.
And then it was Robin Williams and Jumanji when he first comes out.
I thought that one was pretty funny.
And it's weird how accurate it is.
Yeah.
And then like Yosemite Sam was one of them, and Hagrid was one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're all right. And then some lady was just like, "Here you go, Jake." And it was Brad Pitt, like scruffy looking
Really?
Brad Pitt. And I was just like, "I'm married, ma'am." Like, I know you're lying. like, stop that.
Yeah. Oh, shit. That's funny.
That's awesome. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so that's what Grant's been up to. That's how we started that conversation. Grant, what have you been up to?
That's what this podcast is.
Yeah,
The starting point is, what have you been up to? And then we just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, and next thing you know, none of us get to leave. You are our leader now.
So, Jake, I know you've been shaking and moving since the last time you've been...
I've not been moving very fast.
You've been shaking and moving very slowly, like a sloth. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a sloth does an Irish jig.
I met a sloth since the last time I saw you guys.
Really?
Yeah, I went to Charleston. I forget when I was here, but
leaving. This is great.
I thought he was going to the bathroom loudly.
No, I'm just leaving.
This is what I think about this goddamn sloth story.
Yeah, seriously, but
I'm terrified of
literally,
sloths.
this podcast, like when it's just me and him, it's just an interrupted conversation. That's all it is. That's all it is.
So I met a sloth. I went to Charleston, South Carolina for my girlfriend's birthday.
Uh-huh.
We went to the beach and ate lots of shrimp and grits and fried po' boys. And
Did you get loaded?
I got
grits?
Get loaded what?
Grits.
Yeah.
That's the
With
only
the
way to eat
gravy
them.
and the
Oh,
cheese
man.
and
Yeah,
it
the
was
cheese, the bacon,
in,
the
like,
green onions.
a house that looks like it was owned by
Yes.
somebody who fought for the Civil War
Whenever
on
we
the
went-
wrong side.
When we went to Memphis, there was a place called Brother Juniper's. And if you guys ever go to Memphis, go to Brother Juniper's. It's a long way because it's so good.
Yeah.
But it's like in a
Soul food?
It's like a house.
Yeah.
It's just like a diner, but they're known for like their breakfast there,
Mm.
and the loaded grits like inspired me.
It really, there's no reason we shouldn't all be eating delicious food every day. I don't think it's that much harder to prepare than
No.
shitty food. Like, I think I
Right.
spend as much time whipping something up that is whatever. As like, if I just followed a real good recipe and put some love into it.
If only there was a YouTube show of two guys just cooking outside over a bum barrel.
He's teasing the YouTube show we're trying to create.
We're
but
we're making a cooking show together.
We've been months in pre-production. We're two very different hippies, and it takes us time to actually
Yeah.
coalesce
Yeah.
into
Right.
something functional.
But when it happens, it's gonna be a mess.
You guys really... Him dragging me here to be on this is lightning in a bottle. We haven't seen each other in months.
I know. It was like totally an excuse to be like, let's talk about our show. that doesn't exist. No, so if Grant's done the sloth thing, I guess I can talk.
If anyone in India has a suggested title for our bum barrel outside cooking show, please send it in.
The only title we've come up with. So the premise of the show is we're going to film it at my house.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up. My family owns a sawmill, and outside
Ooh, brag.
of a sawmill, that's one step above going. My family owns a junkyard. Like, that's not a good.
Which there are some old cars out at the sawmill.
There's a lot of cars at the sawmill.
It's just a different type of smell.
Yeah, a little more man glitter. But they're outside, like and the building was a big open building.
Right.
Like it's not like a nice sawmill, but there was what we always just called the bum barrel,
Uh-huh.
which is like a hobo barrel, where you just have basically a steel drum with wood in it, and you have a fire, and that's where you stand and you get warm. Well, lunchtime, we would just put a grate over it, and we would cook on that barrel.
Right.
And some of the food was amazing. And I was just like, man, I wish I could like perfect like the art of cooking over a bum barrel. So that's going to be the whole, I'm just going to be cooking on a campfire basically and a bum barrel. And it's just, and I look like the kind of guy that just eats outside a lot probably. Right. So it makes sense. And the only title we've come up with so far, and I don't know if we should go with it yet.
Yeah. We're both mixed about it.
Is cooking over a barrel. It's just called over a barrel. Basically, so cooking, but it's like it doesn't have that like pull. You know what I mean? It's just like okay,
it's lacking sparkle.
So we need need listeners to give us suggestions.
I like to call homeless people around here homies. So you call it cooking with the homies.
That's not bad.
Well, the only issue is he won't be on camera. He'll just be yelling at me off camera.
I'll be like a vocal producer.
Gotcha. Right. So it's just me.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be sad.
Why don't you just call it Cooking with Jake?
I don't know.
It could be a spin-off of this podcast, and we could call it Cooking Over a Barrel, and then we come all over it!
Jesus Christ.
I'm not a part of this podcast anymore. I know.
I'm sorry. Fans of Jake, I'm sorry. Good God. That is not what the show will be like.
All of a sudden, I'm not into the show.
See,
I don't want to do it now.
You're the one on camera. I'm not even doing it.
I'm not doing it. Barrel Cooking Chronicles or something like that.
So Cheyenne's a huge fan of Laugh and Be Blessed, your podcast.
Oh, nice.
And
more a fan of yours than she is of ours.
No, but is she a fan of me or Chia?
Both of you.
Because what I've found is
Chia.
Yeah,
her favorite is Chia.
That was what I was going to say. I've found since doing a podcast with my wife, and I did it to promote shows coming up.
Right.
That no one cares about me. They're just like, shh, more Chia.
So she loves the podcast. So after the last time that you were on, I was like, yeah, he has a podcast. And she looked it up. She binged it in a week. Everything up to that point that you had.
Yeah.
So when I say fan, huge fan.
Yeah.
And she's excited. She's like, I don't have anything to listen to. Laugh and Be Blessed hasn't been uploaded yet. I swear.
I thought you were just being nice.
No.
When you were like, can you bring her? Sure, she's a big fan. I was like, well, you know, I'm doing your podcast. Right? Don't butter me up.
No, I'm not at all. I swear.
That's nice.
I swear she's the biggest fan. She's like, I don't have anything to listen to. Laugh and Be Blessed has been uploaded yet. And she was sad when you guys had to take that break and everything.
Yeah. We back.
Yeah, better than ever. That's what I'm saying. She tells me, she's like, yeah, you know, when you because it was sad because your dog passed away and everything.
Yeah.
So that's
bring that up.
I'm sorry.
No, let's talk about that.
Well, we're sorry.
No, that is why I couldn't come on the show though.
You know, and it's sad but yeah, huge fan.
He was old.
So not buttering you up at all. Huge fan.
Oh, that's cool.
And but yeah, so I'm just like, do you think that, you know, people that listen to his podcast, I was like, do you think they listen to ours? Like, they would even like be interested in ours? And she's like, no, probably not. I was like, I don't think they commingle together very well.
I mean, I don't know. I have a couple friends who, you know, I play D&D with that if their parents let them.
After they get done kissing. Jesus Christ.
No, that's cool. And that's, it's nice because you know, and you guys know this, doing the podcast, you don't get a lot of feedback a lot of times.
No.
I have maybe 20 people that consistently give me feedback on that will message us, that will email us, and then be a part of the Facebook group. That's the biggest thing, is that the Facebook group, I have like, I don't know, I think we're up to like 530 something members, which is cool, but like 40, 50 of them are active in the group. And I'm like, why are you guys a part of like the podcast group if you don't even know? They're like, oh, this is a podcast? I'm like, well, where'd you come from?
We talked about this yesterday.
We've talked about this so many times. It's just like, man, I've been really meaning to listen to your podcast. I was like, well, we've got 111 episodes. It's been a year and a half. Where the hell you been?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, and it's nice because we did take that break, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal that we took a break.
Right.
You know, I think we took like 2 months off or something because it was just with COVID, with her work schedule, and it was very stressful. And we just took a little bit of time off. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal.
Right.
And then there was a lot of people that were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I want, that's my weekly hang. Why, why I want to hang out with you guys? Why aren't you doing it? And I was like, didn't, maybe tell me that you like it. That'd be nice. Yeah, it'd be nice if I knew that there were people out there that like it.
We at least got to do like one episode a week or something.
We've asked so many times, like, hey, because we know people listen to this. Like, we know you're listening to it. We see your downloads. Like, hey, just send us, like a topic, or you want to, like, ask us a question, anything. Nobody does.
It's
very few people have. Very few people have.
And here's another thing too, is that whenever you do like a call to action on the podcast, you expect to get something back. But there's times that we'll say stuff on the podcast and I just think that it's common knowledge and we'll just keep going.
Right.
Like we've had a Patreon for the podcast for a while.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because we want to get another mic for Chia.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know who hosts your guys' podcast, but I have to pay for mine. A lot of people it's free, but I actually pay for mine.
We pay for ours.
Yeah, because I don't want to mess with it.
Right.
So we started a Patreon, and every episode I'd be like, hey, thank you to the people who are supporting us on Patreon, but we only had a couple people. Mm-hmm. And I would just say it, and I'm like, if you want to be, if you want to contribute, we'd really appreciate it. Just go to patreon.com/laughandbeblessed. Boom. And but I would just say that and then move on.
Yeah.
And we wasn't really getting anything. And then our last episode, I was like, I told Chia before we recorded, I was like, mate, I haven't looked at you the whole time we've been doing this.
We sit really close together. And
like just the moment I looked over, our eyes met, and I heard music.
You could feel me listening.
Yeah. And I appreciate it.
It's like the music from the Titanic.
Yeah.
I love it.
The weird
story
thing
about
is
that for later.
He's holding me, though. So I was telling her, I was like, maybe I should like explain what Patreon is.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who listen to my podcast that don't do technology.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had to have like their son or daughter set up their phone for the podcast.
Right.
Which is cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Met them at a show and they're like, how do I download it? And I'm like, they'll show you. So I went into it and I did and we made it fun and funny and everything, but I was like, here's what Patreon is and here's why it's important to artists. Because most of the time we lose money as artists.
Right.
And especially whenever we're doing something like this. So it's like, if you appreciate something that you're getting for free, $3 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever, it is, that's like nothing.
Yeah,
right.
So if you like it, one way you can show that you like something is just contribute to it.
Right.
So we just did a quick thing, and then the next day I had 3 more Patreon contributors.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, maybe I should explain things better.
Uh-huh.
So I think a lot of times whenever we're doing something, we have it in our mind like,
Right.
oh yeah, if you got, just comment below or whatever. You know what I mean? Like and subscribe. And then you just move past it. But it's like, if you take the time to be like, here's why this is important. We need it as artists. Also because it's like, am I even doing anything?
Right.
And that's a big thing, especially like doing shows. Like,
yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going to feature for this guy. He's the one bringing all the people.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
And then after the show, if you have 2 or 3 people who come up and like, oh, we love hearing you. We came to hear you.
Right.
We like your podcast or something. It's like, oh, this feels nice.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, now he had 300 people show up for him, but I had 3 and I'll take it.
Right. It's appreciated because we talked about this yesterday when we were doing Cody Icker's episode, and it was like, it's nice to hear that. And
we need recognition.
Yeah.
But, it's nice to feel that, because sometimes it is like an effort to do the show. That's why we were doing twice a week and now we only do it once a week just because life in general and all that stuff. And it does take a lot, and people might not think it does, but it takes a lot of energy to get on here and talk, especially if you don't have a topic.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
We just get on here and shoot the shit. So it's...
and you don't have Grant to just...
That's true.
Fill all the dead space.
Tell these crazy ass fucking stories. So, but yeah, we just... but sometimes Cody does go like crazy, and it was just like, if you don't fucking email us, then like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
But that's just your relationship with your fans.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
But
They want you to talk like you.
Right. We've talked about this before, and it's very nice to know that people download every week. And it's so easy to just press that button and unsubscribe and completely just blank you from their lives.
Yeah.
It's so easy for them to do that, but they don't.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So thank you I'll say on behalf of these guys, thank you for everybody who's doing that too.
Yeah, and we've said it before, and it's just like it's so easy for you guys to not do it.
Well, don't tell them.
Right.
Don't tell them how easy it is to, because maybe they're like, well, I have to listen to this week again. Like, don't tell them they can leave. Yeah, stay. You can't. You have nowhere to go. Yeah. So that's one thing that I've been up to is rebooting the podcast. Kind of like took 2 months off, and then now, and we're kind of like getting the structure to it now, which is cool. Where it's like, because Chia, I'm spontaneous.
Right.
I'm okay with being like, we're doing a podcast. Let's do it. And she's like, well, what's our topic? And I'm like, podcast. So like I have these index cards that I literally write show notes on, and I'm like, intro, here's where I'm going to be, and the books we've been reading, the board games we've been playing, and it's kind of cool because now there's like a structure to the show that it's like it's kind of flowing better.
Yeah.
Taking on a life of its own.
I will say from one of your number one fans, Cheyenne really misses your solo podcast and where you self-reflect and talk about stuff that you're thinking about and what's going on in your life.
For real? Because I deleted those.
Really?
They're not even available anymore.
No, Cheyenne,
because I had zero feedback and I felt like an arrogant, pompous piece of garbage.
So Cheyenne actually really liked those. And I listened to them as well, and I liked them as well. So
cool.
The self-reflection was nice to hear.
Okay, because see, I thought that that just came off as like shut up, funny boy. You know what I mean?
No,
like I thought.
No,
so
not at all.
Okay,
well,
that's
the music
good,
in the background.
Maybe you should have told me then, because now you're the people we're talking about. You didn't tell me you liked it.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
I'll tell her to read
gone.
it. I swear she's an Emerald fan. I'm telling you. I don't know anybody else. She has never binged our podcast like that. Ever.
I have a question about your podcast. So for you get a lot out of it, like you're trying to build a fan base, you're trying to be able to go do live shows, you're trying to... What the hell does Chia get out of it?
So
other than spending time with her husband publicly.
Okay, so that's the main thing, honestly. And because our schedules are so weird that it's nice for us to say...
She's a nurse.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah. I guess there's that. My wife is a nurse. And now, like, I have a full-time job along with being a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So then a lot of times weekends I'm gone.
Yeah.
During the week sometimes, I'm doing bar shows that are 4 hours away.
Right.
So I'm gone weeknights. And so
and you have 3 kids.
And we have 3 kids. So it's like knowing that every Sunday night is our night. Like, because there's been a couple times you're like, hey, I'm free Sunday. And I'm like, no. Like, I can't.
My other wife needs me.
It's like, we just having, I wouldn't say it's a date night for us, but having that time where we do the podcast, and after the podcast, we always play a board game. And it's like, that's our night together.
It's your thing that you need to do.
It's important.
And she also now has fans. Because there's awesome. Times that she has came to a show with me before, and after the show, people will come up and they'll go, "Are you the nurse?" Because I talk about it on the podcast, I talk about it on stage. It's like it's nice to have someone to pay my bills. Right. And she's getting a shirt made. Like part of our merch is going to be one of her shirts that just says, "I'm the nurse."
Hell yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, so I mean it's a nice thing.
Yeah,
but. So that's what she gets out of it, is that we get time together, and it's kind of cool because she's got very low self-esteem. She's way better about it now, but for years she struggled with it. Hopefully she wouldn't mind me saying that, but I'm sure she wouldn't.
Yeah,
and
don't we all?
So
sometimes.
Now that people are like, she'll get on the Facebook group, Jake Ruble's Blessed Ones. And she'll go on the Facebook group and people will be like, oh, we love Chia, and Jake, you're so funny, but we come to the show for Chia.
Yeah.
And like a common theme is we downloaded the podcast for Jake and stayed for Chia. And I'm like, okay, jerk. But also it's really cool because she's like, oh, maybe I am kind of cool. And I'm like, yeah, real cool. I like you a lot.
Yeah, you have fans and all you're doing is being yourself.
And sometimes it takes somebody else to say that. Just right. And I feel like if Ryan and I don't really want to do it by ourselves that night, we're just like, hey, what are you doing? Just come on in. Shine will sit down, and it gives a different perspective. So it's a perspective that we sometimes like. I mean, we could sit here and talk all day about utter nonsense.
Sure.
But
been doing it for 25 years.
Right. But it's a perspective that we like to have sometimes because she has a lot of life experiences that she's dealt with in her life. And it offers a different, broader aspect that gives depth to your podcast.
Yeah,
And
she's
that's-
also from my hometown, isn't she?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
And that's what we always wanted with this show. Whenever we wanted to have guests, we want unique people who do different things. It's good.
Right.
It's all right to listen to us talk or whatever, but I want somebody who's unique, who like does drugs during the day because he's depressed. And
I'm working on it.
Right.
We like people that
Right.
walk their dogs.
And I want somebody who was, super religious and then kind of backed away and now is like
And then we just had
the Big
Taryn
Lebowski
JD
in
on
real
the
life,
podcast
yeah,
a few
so-
weeks ago.
Oh, did you?
That was a really good episode.
How is he doing?
He's doing awesome, actually.
Taryn, I messaged you on your
Podcast,
birthday. You never messaged me back.
He's been busy.
He's been super busy, bouncing back and forth between North Carolina and Bloomington.
Okay.
And just tattooing like crazy. He had to take a month, or was it a month off? I think he had to take a whole month.
2 months off.
2 months off or something like that because his wrist was so shot from working so much.
Jesus.
He's been tattooing
He's
like
a
crazy.
beast.
Yeah,
He's really
tattooing like crazy.
talented.
That was an awesome episode. He had his dog in the room just hanging out.
Awesome.
It's been pretty great.
Yeah.
Cody Eicher, who is he? What does he
He
do?
is a friend that we graduated with, and he is a country music singer, up and coming.
Oh.
And so he
That's
just,
why that name sounds familiar.
yeah. So he
Yeah.
just Cody Eicher
plays
is-
with the Bluebird a lot, right?
yeah,
Bluebird,
So
yeah.
Cody
That's
Eicher in the
his name,
Sidewinders, and it's actual country. But no, he just came on
like
because
Jason Isbell style country.
like Chris Stapleton. Like I mean, he
You have no idea who Jason Isbell is,
No, I
do you?
don't.
No, that's why we didn't say that.
You don't listen to country.
No, not a lot.
Let me tell you guys about Cody.
I know who Cody James is.
I'm kidding.
Whitey Morgan,
Yeah.
like that. But
Okay, see, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, respect. You know Whitey Moore.
But he came on to promote his new single that came out a few days ago. But yeah, so it was pretty
Yeah,
cool. We got
that's really cool.
We like getting some freaking culture of it.
Well, that's what's
Yeah.
cool about having Chi on the show too. Is like I'm very, I look like I'm probably super laid back, but whenever I get to talking, like I'm very animated. I get loud, I get excited and stuff.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, and I think people like that. Like it's so different.
Right.
Like our personalities are so different. She's very quiet and like direct to the point and stuff on the show. And then whenever she does roast me, which she definitely roasts me, it's so funny. Like she's so good at it.
Right.
And I think it just catches people off guard a little bit.
Yeah.
See, the way Cheyenne is and the way her family is, even though you guys are from the same place, her family, I've never met anybody like them. Like, they're a lot at one time.
Yeah.
So when she gets going, she got it from her mom, and you get her mom and her sister together, and her, it's crazy.
Like the volume goes up.
yeah.
That's how she is.
We
yeah.
had Thanksgiving here,
Yeah.
and it freaked him and my mom out.
So I
Say
lived.
that.
So we bought my mother-in-law's house, and then she just stayed.
Right.
So I feel like I always have to like say it that way because if I'm like, oh well, I live with my mother-in-law, people are like, we knew. But so she lives with us. We pay all the bills, and she's the loudest person I've ever met in my life, which is okay. I love her. She's amazing. But she's so loud,
Mhm.
and I'm not used to that. I'm
Right.
used to like a really quiet,
Right.
house. My mom is really quiet and everything. And then whenever like Chia and her mom and then her sister come over and then my kids are in the mix, I go outside.
Yeah.
Like I'm outside a lot at my house.
Yeah, I actually, on Thanksgiving, I didn't mean to do it, but there wasn't a lot of places to sit because this is not a big apartment for 6, 7 people. But I
There was
sat in
9 people here.
9 people. I sat in the studio by myself and ate my food.
Yeah.
And they're like, "There's places to sit." I was like, I got 4 plates. I'm not sitting on the floor. And 2, I'm just trying to get away from it all. I have
Yeah.
to deal with it already. But no, so when she comes on, and if she's had like maybe a drink or 2, or just being normal, and she starts talking like the last time she was talking about she had a Cheez-It underneath her tit. But she gets going, she has like 3 different languages.
Been there.
Yeah, hers was on there for 2 days.
So she has like 3 different languages. She's got normal Cheyenne that I know. She's got country bumpkin Cheyenne that I know, and then somewhere she's got inner city, and they intertwine.
No, that's our hometown. That's our for whatever reason, and I don't get it. I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, most of the people that we grew up with are like that. It's like we're country, but a little hood.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, it's like,
See?
and I don't know why because
Right.
none of us there's times that I've said stuff that my wife will just stop and she'll look at me. She's like, "What'd you just say?" And I'm like, "You don't get it. You're not from the streets." She's like, "Neither are you." She's like, 2,300 people in your town, and I'm like, "Yeah, but them streets are hard." They know my mom. They see me in the streets and they tell my mom. They know.
See, that's the way it is, man. It's crazy because when she first started talking about it, I was like, "Who are you?"
It must all trace back to some guy named like Terrence who came in from Indy as like the ice cream man for like 2003 to 2004.
Right.
And they're like, "Wow, what is this, Terrence?" And he's like, "It's NWA." Like, you changed this town forever.
Well, my thing is,
Genghis conned his way through their hometown.
well, my thing is that my dad got remarried when I was, I don't know, like 12 or 13. I'm horrible at dates, so I don't know. It could have been last year.
Could have been somebody else's dad.
I don't even know. Was I there? But he got remarried, and so I had a step family, and my oldest stepbrother, I remember distinctly him being like, "Listen to this album," and it was Biggie. And it was, and I was just like, "This is life changing."
Yeah.
And because up until that point, I'd only really listened to the music that my dad had, so it was always like Molly Hatchet and like AC/DC,
Right.
Yeah.
and which I still love, obviously.
Right.
And but like the moment that I heard rap, I was just like, "Oh, this invokes something completely different in my spirit."
Right. And I feel like that happened with a lot of people too. Like if you weren't East Coast or West Coast, when that shit started coming, people started to like it in the Midwest, but they also liked all their other shit. So,
Yeah.
It just
Well,
kind
and
of.
that's how we got which is cool because now we have like weird music
Yeah.
that like just all mixes together. And even though I don't like some of it, like I know a lot of people like Upchurch,
Yeah.
and I don't know Upchurch very much. I've seen I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan, so every now and then my friends will be like, "Watch this guy sing this Alice in Chains song." So that's the only way I know who Upchurch is.
Right.
But I know that he does like rap country kind of.
Right.
And even though I don't like it, it's cool that exists.
Yeah.
It's cool that there are people out there that are doing stuff like that that's like, "Oh, that's weird."
Uh-huh.
Right.
But like it works for them.
Right.
Right. There's this. It's called. I wish. Two Heads. I think the band's called Two Heads. But it's like, violin and hip hop. So it's like classical and hip hop
That's cool.
meshed together,
Yeah.
and it's so weird and creepy. But the beat that comes out of it is amazing.
Yeah, I'm
And
into that
I love
kind
it.
of stuff.
Isn't it just like a testament to mankind too?
Right.
It's just like, look what people are doing. Like,
It's like
this is
when-
amazing.
It's like when Elvis came out and started shaking his head. It's like, "It's the devil's music. He's leading with his pudding cup." Oh,
we
God.
need new
Well-
music. Like, you have to keep listening to new music. I always tell my girlfriend, like, people who are still listening to exclusively music they listened to as a teenager are not growing as
Right.
people. They're just like, "I want to go back to that emotional space that I loved." And it's
Right.
like, we all listen to music that we've loved forever.
Like,
but if that's
yeah.
all you listen to, if
Like-
you're still just like, Crossfade is the only band I'll ever need.
Oh,
Like,
if you only listen to Def Leppard.
I need more Trapped in my life. It's like no one's ever said that.
It's like, I only listen to Puddle of Mud.
does anybody else miss Warp Tour 03? That's all I need.
Oh, who else misses 90s Lip Biscuit?
Hey, hold on. "In Together Now" was a great song. It was a great song. Yeah, I will still listen.
I listen to
that.
Lip Biscuit all the time. I love it.
It's still great.
Yeah. So, luckily though, I mean, I'm glad that we could come here. It seems like things are changing in the world that we live in.
Oh, yeah.
She got the vaccine.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
she's so and she's okay. So she was like my guinea pig. I was like, "You go ahead and get it." I was like, "Our kids need one of us. So if you die, you go ahead and get it."
I was talking to people and they're like, "Oh, I'm worried about the vaccine." I hear people are freaking out by it, and I was like, "Them people are already crazy."
Right, yeah.
Well, you gotta do the accent. "I ain't getting no COVID vaccine."
Okay, so here that's the big. I have so many people because we are very open about being like, "Yeah, the vaccine's fine. Like
Right.
she's gonna get it.
Yeah.
She's a nurse. She has to get it, or she
Right.
can't work."
Right.
And I get a lot of people that are just like, "Look, man, I'm gonna tell you something real quick. You get that vaccine, the government's chipping you. You don't even know what they're putting in that vial, bud. What do you just go put that in your body? And they're just like drinking a Monster energy drink or something.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, so I talk to a lot of people in the healthcare field.
Yeah.
And every one of them, except for one, there's only been one person I've talked to that's like, I don't think I'll get it. And I'm like, well, you won't have a job.
Right.
Yeah.
There's only been one person that's like, I don't know. Everybody else is like, yes, get it.
Yeah.
I've studied it. I've researched it. I've read the papers. Get it. The only people that are telling me not to get it, I'm like, well, you cut off the catalytic converter to your car.
Right.
That's your expertise.
You think
Like,
the bird right outside the window is listening.
Yeah. Pigeons ain't real. Don't get the vaccine.
You have sleeveless flannels.
So Ryan and I both
Calm
work.
down with that.
All right.
So Ryan and I both work in essential job markets.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's highly recommended, which I'm not afraid of getting it at all. Cheyenne's not, Ryan's not. It's just one of those things. But you just got to properly do the accent when you just like, listen here, I ain't getting that vaccine.
I'll say
I ain't
this.
getting cracked.
I will say this though. If you don't want to get the vaccine, I'm not going to make fun of you.
No,
If
no.
you don't want to get it, I'm not going to look down on you or
No.
anything like that.
Right.
Because I think that it should be a choice for everybody. You get
yeah.
it or don't get it. You know. But then also, if I get it,
Right.
like I literally seen somebody make a post that's like, if you get the vaccine, don't come to my house around me and my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you worried about? Like it's going in my body. Do you think? What do you think's going to happen?
That's
It's
the
like-
funny thing. You can get it or you don't have to get it. I don't care, but don't tell me I'm stupid for getting it.
Yeah,
I don't
like,
say
just
shit
let
about
everybody
you.
live their life,
Exactly.
man.
Like you're gonna emerge in like 2 days, like the COVID boogeyman. It's like, I'm gonna touch your kids.
Well, see, that's like we
I
went
don't
to-
get it.
So like a couple of years ago, we went to a Christmas party with all of our high school friends, and this was their second baby that they had. You know, so all this like the worries should be out the window. But I don't get flu shots, so I couldn't hold their baby. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I'm not so damn bad now, am I?
Yeah. I don't know. We don't want to talk about that. But yeah, things have been opening up, so which is cool because that means that comedy's kind of coming back.
Yeah.
That's great for the
I'm sorry.
It's like doing a podcast with Chia. She does the same stuff. I'm like, stop touching things. If you got to do stuff with your hands, do it
Don't
quietly.
patronize me. He handed me a slinky. He thinks I'm a simple boy.
I mean, we can bring the fidget spinners back. That's what we need to get in.
Hey, no, but the worst thing is when Sam Bob came on for the very first couple times, and we gave him a bottle of water, we gave him a glass after that. Because it just...
Yeah, that's what he was sitting there spinning it. We're just like, you gotta stop, man.
That's great for
You gotta
radio.
give Sam Bob a proper. He'll just itch his belly button for 2 hours.
Maybe it's not good that things are opening.
No, when he was on here last time, he like leaned forward and like sat up a little bit, and he fucking farted, and I could not contain myself. I could not contain myself. I just looked at him, and he's like, "Excuse me." And I was like, that was so nonchalant. I was
Well,
like,
when he walked
we
in-
all fucking heard it, and you're just like, excuse me.
So Ryan and I, so Cheyenne and I like to clean a clean apartment, a clean house. And when he
I
walked in,
took
he's
my
like,
shoes off.
right. so when he walked in, first thing Sam Bob said, he's like, "Oh, kitty." He's like, because we have a cat and a dog, and he goes, "Oh, kitty cat," and he bent down to pet the cat, and they looked around. He's like, "This place is so clean." He's like, "My apartment does not look like this. He's like, we look like fucking trolls." And I was like, "Okay." And then he farted. I was just like, "That makes fucking sense."
No,
You know, that's kind of the nice thing about having kids, though, is because I'm just like, kids, what are you gonna do?
Right.
You know, it's just like,
Totally just like,
Which I think is
yeah.
like what half of America does.
well, the great thing though is my daughter is about to turn 12, so she's old enough now to where now I'm like, go do the dishes. You can help, and she's cooking now, which is cool. The other night she's just like. She came in, she's just like, "Hey Dad, can I make some brownies?" And I'm like, "Yeah, brownies sound great." And then my wife looked over and goes, "It's 2 a.m. And I was just like, "Okay, time's just a construct, babe. Like, it's fine. It's fine." It's fine.
Yeah.
No big
I would
So,
say
yeah, so-
I would say brownies at your house and at Grant's house are totally different.
That's probably true. Grant's not that much of a scumbag. Guys, stop it. I
that's
like
true. Grant's more of like a when the moon comes up kind of friend.
Grant's the gas station employee that you're not afraid of.
That's
Right.
true. Oh, I always say that, like, you know how if you're kind of on one day or you drink a little coffee or something, you go into the gas station and you're like, you and I, you, Sally, you and I, we're going to like each other by the end of this.
Well, I
can
look at
promise
us-
you that. And I feel people doing that to me all the time. Like, they're like, I'm going to win you over, boy.
Well,
and I'm like, I want to be won over. You don't even have to try.
I always kind of see me and you as two sides of the same coin. Like, we both look homeless in different ways.
We're both 60s children
Yeah,
who were
I
raised
feel
in the
like
2000s.
If you're walking down an alley and there's two guys on either side of the alley, and one's me and one's you, you'll take you home and give you a nice dinner, and you'll steer clear of me.
I'd ask you for advice.
Yeah, I'll be the one to give the advice. You feel sorry for you, but for me, you're just like, it suits him.
Yeah,
This is where he belongs.
let's all turn our books to page 81 of the Farmer's Almanac.
You got that new issue coming up. Yeah, that's another thing I've been up to is the farm. I think last time I was on here, I was talking to you guys about how I was starting a farm.
Right,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to eat some of these chickens. They got out of control. I have way too many chickens now.
You know what you can do if they're too out of control? Milk them.
I don't like the gesture you use. That's not how you milk.
I'm glad this is not this is an audio only
no
podcast.
Never milked a chicken. I don't know.
Now you're not coming home.
You squeeze and twist.
When we finally get a camera, we're just cutting it off. Sorry, guys. You just got to look at the background.
When we
logo.
finally get a camera, you have to start wearing a shirt.
Sometimes I don't. This is my house.
Might have to hide the litter box too, or just keep the camera out.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
But yeah, we actually, Cheyenne has a friend and they have a bunch of chickens, so we've been getting free eggs for months.
Yeah,
And I'm a big boy and I eat a lot of eggs.
Oh man, I give away so many eggs. Like
Right.
the last D&D night that I had with my friends, I took over an entire grocery bag full of eggs.
Right.
And I was just like, here you go, guys. Whatever you want, just take them. I'm not taking them back home with me. So like, these are yours now. Yeah,
They're like,
cool.
Jake, shut up, we're kissing.
Yeah. And then like, what's really cool though is my grandma loves the eggs, and so I'll take her eggs, and then she'll give me like jars of apple butter and like homemade,
there you go.
homemade jam and everything. And I'm like, this is the greatest trade ever.
This is
Right.
this is the storyline behind the movie Holes.
Yeah.
It's like, fix this church, I'll give you peaches.
Yeah, but then they also fell in love, and I'm not gonna fall in love with my grandma.
Hey, stranger things have happened before.
Did you ever notice?
I don't know what they are, but
Have you ever noticed that part of Holes, that story, is just Princess Bride in a different time?
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that?
I did not.
Because so the whole thing with Princess Buttercup is she's kind of like, farm boy, do this and everything, and then he's like, as you wish.
Yeah.
He just says, as you wish, and then they're like, and then one day he's like, as you wish, but what he really meant to say was, I love you, and she loved him too. And if you watch Holes, he's like, I can fix that for you. I can fix that for you. And then one of the times he's like, I can fix that for you, and then their eyes meet, and it's just like, what he really meant was, we're in love.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's Princess Bride.
Yeah.
That's Princess Bride with lizards, is all Holes is.
But it's like we're in love is like I'm tapping ass.
Either
And
way.
my donkey's watching.
Yeah, so not the same as me and my grandma.
No, it's more like a Burning Man exchange, right? It's just like, hey, I give you beads, you give me this.
No, it's more like
Again, I beads. I'm making my grandma beads. Like, why do you guys think that I want to see my grandma naked?
I didn't suggest it.
I'm just saying, I took a wholesome, sweet thing where I give my grandmother eggs and she gives me jam, and you guys are like, I know what that means.
I think it's just we've experienced many news articles on this show to where like
Yeah.
And we question everything.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. It's just like, I don't make up these news articles. The world creates them for us. And I'm just like, this sounds like something we can laugh at. I'm going to do this one.
I said this last time. I'm going to say this again. That light freaks me out.
Yeah.
That it constantly goes on and off while we're in here.
But I was in here all day yesterday, and it didn't do it one time.
It must be my energy.
I swear it's haunted.
I don't know.
Setting the mood.
I like it because it feels like it ups the energy and then downs the energy. So there's this natural wave.
And also,
happening.
every guest that comes in here, they just go.
Well, I guess if you ever need a standing light for your dumpster fire cooking show, I guess you can.
Yeah,
That's true.
Dumpster fire.
That seemed like more of a judgment than a description.
Yeah, wait a second.
Your barrel burning cooking show.
It's the one flaw to this perfect podcast. That's
No, it's not a flaw. I like it. It just freaks me out a little bit.
it freaks everybody out.
Yeah, but I have been getting out and doing shows. I guess we could talk about that. Which has been really, really good. I ended last year. I've not been doing very many shows this month for some reason, but like December was 100% the best month ever for comedy for me.
Right.
Like it was amazing. All the way up until the New Year's. Like I did the New Year's show that I did was at Gutty's Comedy Club in Greenwood, and it was their brand new location, the first show that they did there, and it's in a theater now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, as I walked out on stage, whenever they called my name and I walked out on stage, and then the crowd was just like, yeah, I was like, I don't belong here. There's like chandeliers hanging up around me and stuff,
Right,
and it's
yeah.
a huge stage and a big theater, and I'm like, you're about to be upset. You guys are going to be like, what is this? But that was great. And then I had shows in Alabama. That was like the first like full weekend of shows. I had 5 shows in Alabama that I did. And that was the dopest time ever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that things continue. That's where I was going with the vaccine thing. It's like, I hope things continue to open up.
Right.
And that can happen more.
Right.
Like the next couple months look pretty decent. Like most of my weekends are booked, which is cool. But they're none of them are like big comedy clubs or anything like that. It's like, private events and, like bar shows and a couple small comedy clubs. But I'm like, whenever you have like a weekend of a comedy club,
Right.
it's like, well, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to do the other shows anymore.
Right. Exactly.
But then it's like, but you have to. And not just that, but then you do them and you're like, oh, this is a different fun.
Yeah.
This is a completely different kind of fun. And you have to, adapt.
Probably somewhat humbling too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's definitely. It's nice to know that. I think the big difference between those two shows is that for me, I'm a no-name comedian. No one knows who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go to the show with a comedian with a lot of recognition. People know who he is. They're coming for him. And then at the end of the show, they're like, "Oh, you were really like surprised. Like, oh, you're really funny." And then you kind of get fans that way. And then the podcast picks up, and then people are liking your fan page and everything. It's like, okay, cool. So I guess I did okay.
Right.
And then you go to the bar shows, and then the people that are coming up to you know you,
Right.
and they're just like, "Oh yeah, we've seen you at this bar. We've seen you at this place." So it's like, "Oh, this is cool." Like it's a completely different feel.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Awesome.
It's like stream versus ocean.
Yeah.
Right. Grant, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for Bear's Place at all?
Bear's Place is still off limits for now. Hopefully, as everything starts to open up a little more, we can open up
Right.
as soon as it feels safe enough to do that.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking either the people that own the businesses just have so much overhead that they could be closed for a year. There's some places that are still closed.
Yeah.
A year
Well, I don't know how
later.
much. I never found out like how much support they got from the stimulus or how much. Like I don't
Right.
know, because I know that a lot was going into protecting local businesses and whatnot.
Right.
But like the Atlas, which is a great bar in town, has been closed, I think, straight through. Like maybe
Right.
they tried to open up for a few
Yeah.
weeks or something, but they've been closed pretty much for a year.
Right.
And all it is maybe they're doing some beer carry out, but it's just a beer bar. They
Right.
sell food because they legally have to, and it's like ramen for $20.
Well, I
like
know-
they don't. It's all a joke. So
I did see a news article where it was saying that a lot of people kind of like staying closed because they've gotten more business than ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I thought was
I really know. That makes me feel like I know nothing about anything.
But they were
when it
saying
comes to
some
business.
businesses were like, "Oh, we actually might just stay closed and just keep
Well,
our dining room closed
just
and
like
just do only
carry out.
carry out." Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
But I think it was like the antisocial kind of thing that people were just like, "Oh, I can just run in here for a minute, and get my shit, and leave." So
Yeah, which that part of it I do kind of like a lot of times. Because I have, strangely enough, and we were talking about this earlier, I have social anxiety like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If I'm in control of it, I feel okay. Like on stage, I feel fine, and if it's a small group of people, I'm okay. But if I go to a public place and there's a bunch of people, I get social anxiety really, really bad.
Right.
So that's been one silver lining is whenever I do go out, either A, I have to get carry out, or B, there's no one sitting in the booths around me.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is kind of nice. This is,
Right.
But then it also goes back to the fact of, but then these places are closed at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, that's one thing.
And I still don't understand it. And
I don't understand it.
But again, like Grant, I don't
Right.
get business.
Yeah.
I don't understand how these things
Because
work.
there's a wing place in my town, and like usually I'm like here, or if I'm doing something late, they would stay open until like midnight. Now they close at 9:00, so I'm like, fuck, I got to get there if I want this shit. So
No, for sure. I do miss like Bear's Place and places like that because it's not. I miss working like completely because I'm nervous to work out new stuff now. Like if I'm getting paid to do a show, I feel bad if I'm trying new jokes on stage, so I can only do like one or two
because you want it to be good.
Exactly, and it's like, well, if I'm getting paid, and not only that, but it's not like the clubs are booking me or the bar is booking me. It's that the headliner's like, hey, you're my friend, come with me. And I want them to keep saying that. I don't want them to be like, what are you doing?
Right.
I thought you could do something. And so I miss the fact of like being able to go with a group of everybody who's on the same level as me or slightly above me and could do these jokes and then be like afterwards, like I'd go up to Grant and be like, how did that work?
Right.
And he'd be like, maybe do this, or, I don't think I'd ever do that again,
Well, that's our favorite thing to do, like probably, outside of whatever personal life stuff we have going on, our favorite thing to do comedy-wise is literally just to do shows and drink coffee and talk all about the fucking show.
Yeah.
Like, that's all, like, I'm a comedy nerd because I have an endless well for comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I never get bored of it. I never am sick of talking about it. I will have to, like, listen to jazz or something just to like clear my fucking head. Sometimes I have to like get weird and like allow other emotions to come out, but I will talk about jokes until like other people's eyes are bleeding.
See, that's how I am too. And
so I miss that. Like we don't have that right now.
I think that a lot of comics, and I was specifically told this, like, have something to talk about with the headliner other than comedy. Because they'll feel like, okay, like this is all it is comedy. But if you can like relate to them on a different level, then they'll like you more and stuff.
Right.
But there's times that I'm like, well, I want to talk comedy. Like I want to ask your opinion, which is nice because the guy that I went to the shows with in Alabama was all about it, and actually gave me taglines and stuff to use that weekend. He was just like, hey, that joke was good, but what if you said this? And I'm like, well, you're famous. I'll say it. If you think it'll work, I'll do that.
Right.
But that's the thing that I really miss about doing open mics, because right now I just don't feel safe going to open mics. And there's not enough of them.
Yeah.
Well, because most open mics happen in like shoddy bars in any kind of place. And what's cool about them is that they are intimate and like whoever's there is there and like whatever.
Right.
But that is everything that's bad during COVID. People you don't know who's there, you don't know how they feel about masks, you don't know how close people are gonna sit, or if people are gonna there are enough worries in an open mic when there's no pandemic. Like just making sure the audience is ready and good, and that the comedians are bringing it and whatever. Like that's what it takes to make a show happen. I don't want to have to go in and be like, did that guy just cough? Because I'm driving 2 hours home if that guy just coughed.
Be like, I don't want to go on stage with a mask on. It feels weird to me.
I'm still doing that at the comedy. I'm getting up at the Comedy Attic every week, and that's the only place. But I have to have a mask on for that, and it is like,
and I'm happy
it's
they're
making
doing
me
it.
different.
I'm happy they're doing it.
Yeah,
Like, I get it, and I'm happy they're doing it. And I'm not saying they shouldn't do that.
No.
I'm not putting them down for it.
I like
That's great.
it's better than not doing it for sure, but it's a way different. Like I can't make faces. Like, my whole thing is just, like, looking at people and
That's
making
the whole
faces.
thing. I
and-
never knew.
Same. Yeah.
I never knew how bad of like hard of hearing or like how bad it is to pay attention until people's faces were covered up. Because I was like, because I smile at a lot of people. They can't see me smiling. I
Right.
just look like somebody who's fucking staring at you.
Yeah.
And like a crazy
Oh,
person.
yeah, because I
Smile
definitely.
with your eyes!
was
Smile with... I don't know what that means!
I smile with my eyes and I look
You also
Chinese.
can't
So.
see my eyes.
Right.
So it's like if I'm walking through a grocery store and I like smile at somebody, they're just like, "Oh, he's gonna pickpocket me."
I hosted the attic. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No,
you.
you're good.
I hosted the attic show on Thursday, and like with
Nice.
two brag.
Come on,
Brag,
son.
boom! With 2 people left to go in the show, I was like, just because we've been such a good audience tonight, little special surprise, my whole face! And I just pulled my mask. I didn't talk with my mask down. I didn't breathe with my mask
Yeah.
down, but I just pulled it down and just looked at everybody. Round of applause. Like, I think it's just so like,
Right.
oh, we've seen this dude for an hour. I didn't know what his nose looked like.
Right.
Like, it's like
Yeah.
an
It's a weird
epiphany
thing,
for the
yeah.
audience to
Yeah.
see your face.
Right. See, that's like when I meet new people. During
Yeah.
like especially
Oh.
at work. So if you meet new people,
Having such a
so
hard
at
time.
work, I have to wear it all day except when we're sitting at our desk or eating something
Okay.
like that. We have to wear them all day.
Yeah, yeah.
So meeting new people, like new people that I work with, new coworkers, it's so weird to see what they look like.
Yeah.
And we all sat down and they have, obviously my work, obviously definitely put money into putting plexiglass in individual seats. So we all took our mask off to sit down at one giant table with plexiglass in between us. And I seen all their faces for the first time. I was like, that is not what I thought you guys would look like. Everybody looks weird from the nose down. I was just like, your nose is bigger. I didn't say it. I was like, your nose is bigger than I thought it was.
Isn't it weird,
your
like,
face
how-
looks sunk in. Like,
It's weird how I feel like so many of us are more attractive with a mask over our face.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
100%.
especially
Everybody looked
me.
great.
First few months, worst joke I heard working at the gas station was a guy coming in being like, man, this mask shit is bullshit, but damn, it makes the ladies look prettier, doesn't it?
Well, I talked
good
to
God, man.
I talked to an anti-masker a while back that were just like, I'll never wear a mask. This is ridiculous and all this stuff. And I'm like, you've obviously never been the kind of like. You got braces growing up. Like, I'm okay with covering this grill up. Like, this beard is on purpose. If I can use more things to cover these teeth up, dude, I'm in. Like, I love it.
This is the
Are you
longest,
kidding
most
me?
beautiful flu season of my whole life.
Oh man, like people think I look so much more attractive.
And that's like if you do meet new people, there's and like you meet somebody and then time goes by and you come back and you see them again and they're like, oh man, hey, how are you doing?
It's like
how you been?
sober beer
And you're just like,
goggles.
who are you? Did I meet you before?
Yeah.
And I'm just,
See,
'cause
I'm like
everybody
that
looks
anyway.
the same.
So I'm like that. I'm horrible with
Right,
with
me
names and
too.
faces.
Me too.
I'm just horrible with memory.
Mhm.
Like I just don't remember.
And now
things.
all you get are eyeballs
Yeah.
and hair.
Yeah.
And you have to be like,
You know, but I've gotten so comfortable with just being real with stuff to
Yeah.
where it used to be, it would be like, the whole time they're talking to me, I'm like, who is this person? But I'm so comfortable now to where I'm just like, I know you.
Right.
Right.
And it's not your fault,
Uh-huh.
but I can't place you.
Yeah.
And most of the time people are okay with it.
Yeah.
And
See,
they're
maybe
just like,
I
"Oh,
need to
no,
start
no."
doing that shit.
Yeah, just be honest.
See, we've talked about this before because I went to the dentist a while back, and one of the dental hygienists is a girl that we grew up with. We haven't seen her in probably a decade. So I didn't know her off the bat, but she's like, "You remember me? All I see is this." So I'm like, "Sure do, buddy." But once I recognized her and she started talking about stuff that I was familiar with, I remember who she was, but I didn't let her know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know who the heck she was.
See,
Ryan,
you can pull that off because people see it in my face. They're just like, "Oh, you remember me?" And I'm just like,
it's like, you know, he's going to disappoint you.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But he's just like, no, I don't.
Yeah, but if you tell them with a friendly look, it's
Yeah.
okay. Because
But
I'm just like, look, I know you.
Yeah, maybe I need to improv a little bit better.
Yeah.
But like, there's like, I don't know if you ever been in like a big conversation with like a group of people like before COVID, but like there's that one person like somebody tells a joke and you all laugh, but that person has like the most annoying laugh you've ever heard, and you have to like play it cool. I can't do that. I just kind of they laugh and I'm just like,
Yeah, but I'm probably the guy that with the annoying laugh.
nah, I don't know about
I don't
that.
know. She has told me before, she's like, you laugh so weird. She's like, you sound like Emilio Estevez in Young Guns when you laugh. And I'm like, okay, Billy the Kid?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Somebody famous?
See, that's the way it is. So the first time I ever heard Cheyenne actually laugh, when she actually thinks something's legitimately super funny, she sounds like a man. She goes, that's how she sounds. I swear to God, that's how she sounds. That's how she sounds. And normally,
I like it. I think it's a beautiful laugh, and I love her. She's my number one fan, and she can't do
You
anything
hear
wrong.
that, Cheyenne? He loves you.
You're the best.
But yeah, it's just so guttural. I was just like, what was that? She's like, it's funny. I was like, who the fuck are you? It's been a mystery. I mean, we've been together for over a year, and the entire time, just I don't know who the fuck she is on a day-to-day.
Well, she changes a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's definitely. So, how much time you guys got left? You got
Whatever you want.
Cool.
I'm going to a Pacers game. That was just information.
All right.
No, I don't have to be there. It's not till 7.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It is currently 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Is that why you have a Pacers hat on?
No, I've been wearing Pacers hats.
I've been wearing them.
I've been wearing them.
Thanks for noticing.
I got this old one at a flea market in Martinsville at Trader Baker's.
Not everything's a good story. Like I feel like we have to tell you that not everything is a backstory situation.
Who brought me?
Where'd you get that sweater, Grant?
What a mistake. Also from Trader Baker's in Martinsville. Okay, so I had a little bit. I got that $600 stimulus check, and I had a little bit.
Kids, dude. I got $600? What an idiot!
I'm done. You know what? End of story. It was gonna get down to I was spending too much money online. I started using shopping apps.
If you had,
Poshmark and the like, so now I have 3 like 90s Pacers hats.
I mean, it looks, honestly, your getup looks like you back in time.
I'm trying
Like
to.
you're ready for a Pacers game.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like Willy Wonka in disguise at a Pacers game.
you're not pulling it off. Like if you had like a little bit of a bug hanging out of your nose.
I did. I wiped it on this poster.
Well, I was gonna say, if you had one, would you want someone to tell you?
Yeah.
It's your left nostril.
I'll be back.
I'm looking out for you. That's because I love you. Lock the door.
That would have been real embarrassing, the podcast.
All right, now that he's gone, I apologize.
For what?
I'm just kidding.
No, man, this is great. As soon you're like, I brought a surprise guest. I was like, who the hell's here? I thought you brought one of your kids. And I turned the corner.
I did.
He's walking through the door with a plate of food.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be awesome.
I just told him, I was like, hey man, I'm gonna be in town tomorrow. You want to go with me somewhere?
I know,
The
but
genius setup.
But everybody who's listening to the show, you can't see him, but he does look like if Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had like an uppity white kid who was a neighbor. That's exactly what he's dressed as.
I feel like I just heard him laugh in the bathroom. Like he heard you.
It's almost as if Macaulay Culkin could have took another 180 turn and could have wound up in a completely different direction.
No,
Yeah.
he's the in-between of what happened with Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
He's the in-between. He's mid.
Yes, I would be friends with a young Will Smith.
But the thing is, I love it because like when we go anywhere together, it's so weird.
It is.
Like because we're both so this thing.
We're very good friends, and we come together on a lot of things. We believe similar things, and we both kind of similar religious backgrounds where we've come to wherever we are now. Not vehemently against it or anything, but definitely I have some challenges with the church I grew up with.
We're very open-minded.
Yeah, and very open to, I don't know, starting new cults and maybe L. Ron Hubbard didn't have it all wrong. I don't know, lots of ideas.
Well, I wouldn't go that
But
far.
no, we're very different and very similar. And I think like it's definitely in comedy though, you want people to look kind of distinguished
Right.
and recognizable. And I think we just look very recognizable in different ways.
Yeah, you
Also,
most
you're
definitely
one
do.
of my favorite people to take with to shows. Like that's why anytime they're like, "Can you bring someone?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, we have so much fun just in the car together.
Yeah,
and
well, that's the
just
big
talk
thing
and
is
talk
like
and talk.
the drive there is always great. The drive back is always great because both of us are so self-deprecating after a show. It's just like I hate it. And it's like, no, dude, come on.
We both go in like, I'm working on this thing. Like, I really think it's going to be good. Like, a couple people laughed and whatever, and we leave like, why the fuck would I
Like,
think
why did I do
anything
that?
ever is good?
And then it's just like, yeah, like Grant is my comedy wife. So where it's just like, I shouldn't do this anymore. And he's like, you're doing great, big guy.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
You're gonna get to the point where Chia's like, "Are you hanging out with Grant again?"
Well, the thing is, like, and I 100% mean this, and I've said this to you before. Grant, to me, like in the comedians that I know right now, Grant is like Steve Martin to me, because Steve Martin came in and did something so different.
Mhm.
Like no one else was doing what Steve
I
Martin
think
did.
Grant's trying to grasp that
And it-
right now.
That's too nice.
No, it's 100% accurate though, because if you go to a mic with Grant and all these comedians are going up and they're doing their jokes. Now I'm talking Grant now, not Grant a year ago even. His transition within the last year from, and this is like a lot of us like FaceTiming at like late at night talking about I want to do this, and it's like just do it. And then, but like
Best advice.
it's so different to where, and what comes to mind is like the show that we did where you came out with a boombox and like we just played this like little striptease song, and you were like, when I was a young boy, I wanted to be a robot. And it was so weird, and you could see everyone's face, like,
You know, like Steve Martin in his prime.
dude, 100% though. Like think about the
Yeah.
stuff that Steve Martin did back then. You read his book, you know.
Yeah.
Like the jokes he would go out and he would do things that people were like my thing is that Steve Martin said that he always wanted, when people left his show, to be like, you have got to go see this guy. And people would be like, why? And they'd go, I don't know. But you have to see him, and you can't explain it. You have to see it. And that's why he is who he is.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying like Grant is like Steve Martin joke wise, but he's to the point to where like that night after that show, neither one of us advanced in the competition.
Uh-huh.
But it was the semifinals.
Yeah, it's the semifinals because we're,
Just to
we do
let everyone know,
we
this
do
wasn't
okay.
some first round
We
shit.
do okay. But outside, I heard more people talking about the robot guy than anything. And the people that came to the show and seen it, that came to the competition and watched it, that I knew, later would just be like, who is that one guy with like the painted fingernails and stuff? And I'm like, that's my guy.
That's my
And
guy.
like, it makes me so happy though, because it's so different than what everybody else, we're all just getting up, we're all just telling jokes and stuff. And Grant's like, I'm going to give you a show.
Uh-huh.
And dude, I love it. I love it. So the fact that you like I can't wait till we start, and that's what I'm getting. I can't wait till we start being able to do more shows and open mics together once things open up to where I can watch it more. Because for me, I love it.
Well,
Like,
and that's
I
where
love
losing,
it.
like, getting up at the Comedy Attic every week, brag.
Well deserved though. I'm just saying. Well deserved.
Hosting and whatever, like, I have to kind of be the ringleader, but I also have to keep it, if I fucking tell them I'm a robot,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna listen to me the rest
You're
of the
also
time.
Grant. You also be like,
it's-
I'm Grant. Like, I do weird
So
shit.
I have to keep it a little more together, but then the jokes can be weirder, and I can
Right.
still be like this, like
Yeah.
my normal personality is a little
Well,
like off
hosting's
kilter.
weird though, because you whenever you're the host, it's not your show.
No,
And that's
I always
the
say
thing, you always
it's
have
it's
to-
like hosting a dinner party,
Yeah, it's
and
like,
you're
this
just
isn't for
getting
me.
up and like giving toasts in
I-
between people.
Like for shows where it's like you got the host, you got the opener, you got the feature, you got the headliner. I hate hosting those shows because it's hard for me to hold back, because you can't go full throttle,
Right.
Because the show's not about you, it's about the headliner. So if you go in and you're just like, trying to hit him as hard as you can, it's like it's a weird thing that happens to where a lot of times I'll just go in, I'll do a couple jokes, and then I bring everybody else up, and it's just like I'll go up and I may make like one or two quick jokes, and I learned that from you hosting Bears, to where you were just like, this show's not about me. Like, I'm gonna try new jokes, but this is not my show. This is your guys' show,
Right?
and it makes it, though, as a comedian, it's nice to have that, to flex that other muscle, because it is completely different. But I know guys like, I got a friend, Evan Burke, who is a hilarious comedian in Nashville. Like, he's so funny, and he loves hosting. Like, he loves the idea of being like, I made that show happen. Like, and I'm not saying like in an arrogant way, but in a way to where like I didn't go out there and make it about me. I went out there and I opened up and I gave them what they wanted, and then I brought up the next guy, and then I brought up the next guy, and at the end of the night, like, man, I had a hand in making that show cohesive and work together. And I love that he's that into it, and I wish I was, because it's like, for me, I'm like, man, I don't want to get off stage. Like, 5 minutes up here? Come on.
Right, exactly.
Well, you go to lots of shows, too, where people host that don't think like that. And then maybe I have, like, a good set, like, in the middle of a really shitty show. Like, I would rather host a show and have it, like, be less about me and it be, like, about overseeing it and be, like, this is going to be a kick-ass comedy show from end to end.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm going to, like, that's what I like about hosting, is that somebody else isn't ruining it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm doing. I don't think I'm like, I'm just plugging myself into a position that's hard to balance.
Yeah.
Because I know I can do it. And some people, like, that's what I miss about doing those little bar shows and shit, is that, like, that's a place where you can bring a boombox on stage.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a fuck, you know? But once you're in a comedy club or something, you want to be bringing the stuff that, like, oh, I've forged this diamond by fire, you know?
Like, and then that's like first impression, like when somebody new walks in the Barrett's place and never been to that show before, or if they're going up on stage, you walk in, there's like really oldie playing music, and there's just this like 6'4" skinny man thing.
I'm dancing to whatever,
on stage.
Whatever music I happen to be listening to.
Like, he's just out there dancing on stage. It's just like, is he part of the show? Like, it hasn't started yet. There's an hour until it starts. And then he's just like, oh, hey, what's up? The paper's over there. It's just like, I'm the host. I'm just like, okay.
Well, it's like a bisexual pirate ship.
My first open mic that I ever even went to, I didn't get up. I went to the Comedy Attic because I was like, well, if I want to do comedy, I have to go watch comedy.
Right.
I'd never been to a show ever. Like, I've never been to a live show until I went to the Comedy Attic a few years ago. And Grant was one of the guys that went up, and I just remember being like, I like his energy. I like this guy. And now we just get to do podcasts together. Yeah. But it was just like, because it is this vibe of like, again, just being like, you're not like everyone else in a good way, to where like you are. If you wouldn't know you, it's like, you're like, oh, this guy's so comfortable with who he is. And then you get to know him, you're like, oh, he's uncomfortable.
I know. Well, that's why you like Bears, because it's run by somebody with social anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's why we get along so well. Yeah. Afterwards, we can talk about how horrible an experience that just was.
It's when you like, it's so if you're like if you're staring at a group of people, or you're in a bar somewhere, you're just like staring at this big group of people gathered together talking and having a good time. You're just panning from left to right in this panorama. Everybody's having a good time, and then you get to Grant, and this is like everybody's got to have a Grant in their group. It kind of completes it. It's like you're like that half-eaten, chewed-on chess piece of the It's just like you're not.
You've been nibbled. You've been nibbled. You talking about my friend Nibbles?
But I started as a queen.
Exactly.
But someone got hungry.
You're now the pauper, and you don't even exist. You're just on the board. Yeah. You're like if you're playing freaking checkers. You're like that chess piece.
Somebody lost the car in Monopoly, and now there's a chewed up chess piece.
It's not even a chess. It's the little what looks like a pawn from the game. Sorry. It's like sorry, I'm here. And I'm just the penny that someone like. I guess I got here. Just use this in Monopoly. I'm just this penny. Like just use that.
This
That's
is
the
all
least important
a
thing.
lot for me to take in.
Yeah.
Next time on the podcast, I'm going to be different.
I feel like we're just giving you just compliments.
I know, it makes me feel weird and I like it.
Honestly, I didn't realize how much I really missed open mics until here recently. And it's like, man, and that's why I've been messaging you guys like, how's the attic? Like,
yeah, uh-huh.
Well,
the attic has been super fun. It's just still in that mask situation.
Which
so
is fine, and I get it, and it's fine. My issue is that I don't know if I can bring 10 people out right now.
I don't know that under current conditions they're expecting that as a number.
Okay, because I'm just like, man, I don't know.
I think they want people to make an effort. I think they know that it's all fucking...
It is.
I mean, how was anybody doing anything? You
Right,
know,
right.
there was 2 weeks ago there were probably 60 people there. And it's mostly college kids, so like they're going to the bars and shit anyway, you know, whatever. But they're all masked up and like the show was great, and it was like, oh shit, like it's not, or like your New Year's show was probably like that, where you're like, shit, people still want to like go out and do a thing.
Dude, I thought for sure that show, because it was a new location, the first show, and it was New Year's, and it was just like the people that were on the show was the club owner. And just local.
Shout out Steve.
Yeah, Steve. Which, dude, I'm going to be completely honest. He killed. He closed the show out. I thought, and I don't feel bad saying this because I've told him, I thought Steve was a club owner who did comedy. Steve's a comedian who owns a club. Like, dude, he
Big difference,
killed me. The show was 2 hours long.
Shit.
And the crowd was crying laughing at him. And I'm like, if you go up last at the end of a show like that to where like, and everybody did great that night, but like, dude, most people are tired.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, oh man. And he killed. But yeah, like I thought for sure there was going to be like 10 people there. Right. And nothing against Guddy's, because Guddy's is a great place. It's because it was their first night.
Right.
It was opening and it was on New Year's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, people have plans. And because the show wasn't promoted, it had happened because the headliner had to back out. So they had to throw this show together last minute. And that's what happened. And yeah, we had like 60, 70 people there that night, I think, something like that. Right. And it was just like, and then coming from the greatest weekend in comedy for me, like I got to go do comedy with my favorite comedian. Mm-hmm. Like not just like, oh, this guy's really funny. It's like, no, he's been like, he knows, like he's been my favorite comedian for the last since I've been doing comedy.
Right.
And then to go do that, I was just like on cloud 9, and then came into this show and I was like, this is going to be fun. But then I was like on my A game.
Right.
So then just crushed and had a great set.
And this was a week that started in Disney for you too.
We didn't make it.
Oh, you never made it?
No.
Oh.
I didn't tell you that?
No.
Yeah, so we were supposed to go to...
Cheyenne knows.
Yeah. Yeah. We were supposed to go to Disney.
It doesn't listen to the podcast.
My girlfriend is the Jake and Chia update, I swear.
I love it.
It really is.
I never knew that. I thought you guys... Because I saw... The last picture I saw was you guys in the car with the kids saying, we're on our way to Disney.
Yep. So we go. So the plan was I was going to go to Disney. We're going to be in Disney for the week. On the way back, we were going to go through Alabama. She was going to drop me off at the shows, and then she was going to come back home, and then I was going to ride back to Nashville with Dusty, and then she was going to pick me up in Nashville that Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. We get halfway through Kentucky, and my son gets sick, like real sick. And is puking everywhere. And I'm like, well, maybe he's just car sick. Like, he's a kid, and he does get, like, puny sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, maybe that's what's going on. I was like, let's just stop and get a hotel room for the night and, like, just keep an eye on him. Let's, and see what happens. And he stopped puking, but he just felt like garbage.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I'm not going to force this kid to be in the car for another 14 hours.
Right.
And she's like, so what do we do? And I was like, we're just going to go home. I was like, we'll just go back home. Disney refunded all of our money, which was dope.
Wow.
And they were like, yeah, just come back in a few months. And we're like, thank you. So we just went back home. And then I was just going to go to the show by myself that weekend. But she still wanted to go. And we told the kids, like, hey, we're going to go to Alabama. So they literally drove me from our house to Alabama, stayed the night in the hotel with me, and then came back the next day. And then I just stayed the weekend there. And then I went back to Nashville. and then they picked me up, or she picked me up on Tuesday, which is nice because then it was just me and her.
Yeah.
The kids stayed home with my mother-in-law.
Mhm.
So it's like we went out to dinner and we could like stop at a few places on the way home. We didn't have to rush.
Well, it's like you got great family time, great comedy time, great wife time.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that was the best.
And then you go back and do New Year's.
Yeah,
Right.
it was the best week. But then it's like, then I had a month. Like I hosted one show this month, but that's it. So then other than that, it's just like, oh, comedy's back. Yes. Yes. Oh, this is the greatest feeling in the world. I meet new people. High five. Woo. And then I'm just at home feeding chickens. And it's just like, oh, okay. this
Feeding
is-
chickens that you're contemplating on killing.
Yeah. I'm going to have to eat some. So yeah, but hopefully like things, next week or next month, which is next week, I think I have like 4 shows coming up, and then the month after that I've already got a few. Like we're going to do a show in Evansville on the 19th, in February 19th. So like there's things coming up to where it's, and they're going to be fun shows too. Like any show right now is fun,
Mhm.
you know, but
Especially right now. I mean,
yeah,
anything is fun. Yeah.
but they're also kind of scary.
right.
Because you don't know what's going on and everything. But and it's like one of the shows that I'm doing is in Kentucky, and I'm just opening for somebody. And he was like, look, I'm going to be honest. If you don't want to do this, I'll find you something else.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a far drive for the amount of pay that they're going to give you just to open. He was like, but I thought you were featuring. They already have a feature. And I ended up talking him into just letting you open. He's like, so you'll get like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I was just like, cool, see you then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I have no other shows right now.
Right.
And not just that, but like, I'm an open micer.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, anytime I do any of these shows, I'm like, oh, I don't belong here. Like, I feel this feels weird. Like, I didn't earn this.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, it's a weird feeling sometimes to be like, and then you get the messages every now and then from comedians that you know that are just like, what do you think you're doing? And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know, man, I love you. I want to do an open mic. Like, I swear.
Oh,
It's like, why don't they talk to me anymore?
I'm an open mic, I promise.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's honestly, man, like, and that goes back to like the whole spiritual thing. Dude, it would be hard for me not to believe that there is some power laying the path before me.
yeah.
Like we've talked about this before, but for me to have a 5-year goal where my 5-year goal was I wanted to open for Dusty Slay. He was my favorite comedian, and I was like, my 5-year goal is I want to open for him. And then not even a year later, I opened for him.
Mhm.
Right.
And I was like, dude, that's not a coincidence. Like something else is pulling strings here. And yeah, I mean, I worked and everything for, but like that's weird. And then it was like, well, I met my 5-year goal. So what's my next goal? Well, I'd like to go on the road with Dusty Slay. And then like 3 months later, he's calling me and he's like, hey, you want to come do this show with me? And I'm like, okay, something weird's going on. Like, I think I'm in a coma. Like, I really, it would be very difficult for somebody to convince me that I'm not in a, like, I feel like I'm probably in a coma, maybe dying, I don't know.
Mhm.
But it's just like, too many weird, cool things are happening. Like, I'm a paid writer for, like, one of my favorite websites.
Mhm.
And I just, like, applied on a whim. And I was like, I'll get denied a few times, but I'll be like Stephen King and just be like, I'm going to keep trying until I... And they were just like, this is great, you're hired. And I was like, what, pardon? I was saying it one more time. And then like 3 other websites messaged me and they're like, will you write for us? And I'm like, well, now I have a job.
Right.
Like now I didn't want a job, but now I have a job on it.
I guess I'll do it.
You know, but it's like I get to write, like I have to write an article. I get to write an article about, you know, who the real bad guy is in Jurassic World. I'm like, oh, you're going to pay me to do that? You're going to pay me to talk about? Oh, okay. You know? And they're like, what do you want to write? And I'm like, I think it's cool that they keep changing who the doctor is on Doctor Who. And they're like, cool, give us an article. And I'm like, for money? You know,
I'm just expressing your feelings so people can read it.
That means that definitely proves that you've gained progress and momentum since the last time you're down here. Because the last time you were on here, you talked about getting paid a little bit of money for writing an article about I think it was like affordable gym equipment in Europe or something like that.
But that's okay. So that's a great example of what of determination, because like
He was in
now,
a weird car crash right after.
it was right before. Like, but that goes to show, like, I'm getting, now that I posted on Facebook, like, where I'm working, because I'm working for Screen Rant, which is, like, one of the biggest movie news outlets in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But now I'm getting all these messages from friends that are like, hey, how do I do that? And I'm like, well, no one told me.
Right.
And it's like, and the thing that's weird though is it's the same thing with like getting booked on a show. They're like, well, who books that? It's like, well, this person books it, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the show.
Right.
And I'm not saying even if you're, because there's a bunch of people, like I think Grant's funnier than I am. And I'm taking him with me to Evansville. But he would have done the same. But like, he's way funnier than I am. But for whatever reason, that booker's seen me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's just this weird thing to where like, you get in somewhere, you find this door, this window, and you get in through that window, and they nail it shut. Because it's like, well, this is how I did it, and then that person can't do it that same way.
Right.
It's like occupancy 1.
It's weird.
Yeah, and once you get in, it's like, well, and every show and every booker and every venue is looking for different stuff.
Sure.
You know, so there might be a space where, like, I would bring Jake, and then there's a space where
100%.
Jake would bring me,
Yeah.
like, where, like, you know, we're just gonna have relationships with different people. And
Grant,
like,
you need a beard.
I
That would be. I think that would
just
be a
realized
good
I'm the
bit.
only one here without any.
If that,
Fur.
I think that might be a good bit. You just get a fake beard and mustache combo.
My
It's almost
beard-
like a mocking.
Or just grow a bitch.
That's what it would like. It would look like mocking, but I don't know what I would be mocking. It's really sad and patchy. I shaved to not look like a 17-year-old fiend.
I don't know, but that's everybody's uniqueness. And there's some people that like are just, you know, like, oh man, how'd you do that? And it was like, yeah, I'll tell you how I did it. But it works for some people, it doesn't work for some people.
right.
And that's just how life is. Sometimes people get a break and like everything goes good for them. You just got to find your own way. Everybody's unique. Everybody has their own things.
Well,
You guys have
also-
1,000 downloads in India, like,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
all
or
over the
whatever.
world,
You know, yeah, but all over. Like,
yeah, but that's the thing too, is a lot of times though we only see surface.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like I'll get these messages and people are just like, oh man, you're writing for Screen Rant now?
Yeah.
Like that happened quick, and I'm like, well, it didn't.
No.
Like I've been writing off and on for like
Yeah.
12 years.
Or people see you like going to these shows and like, you know, being a feature for a famous comedian. They're just like, oh man, that's good for you, lucky you. He's like, oh, that happened quick. And it's like, well, I've been doing this for a long time. Or
I've not.
Well, not a long
And that's
time,
the
but
weird thing,
you put
but-
in the work to be able to get there.
And that's I'm in a weird position because I didn't come into comedy cold. I came into comedy with like 5 years of experience with public speaking.
Right.
To where I was getting up and talking to people.
Mhm.
And I learned just like how to project my voice, and I just learned how to be comfortable on stage. And that's half the battle.
Right.
Like I heard somebody one time say, if you're comfortable on stage and a little bit funny, you're going to be one of the best comedians that are on that show that night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I just kind of lucked out, was that I came from such a similar situation to where I was preaching,
Right.
and I was always putting jokes in my sermons and everything. So I was already doing kind of that. And then I just transitioned it over to comedy.
Right.
And then, you know, I'd have people that would come up and they would just be like, where have you been doing comedy? And I'm like, oh, you know, this church down the road. But so it just worked out. But then, yeah, you're right, because I do sometimes have people, like I had somebody message me the other day, and I get what they meant,
Mm-hmm.
but they were like, oh man, I'm so jealous that you just get everything.
Right.
ew.
Yeah, and it's like, and I get what they meant.
Yeah.
What they meant was,
They're not a good person.
well, they were trying. I think they were trying to give a compliment
Right.
by being like, "Oh man, you're doing some really cool stuff," and I get what they meant, but I'm like, well, you don't see the behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Like the
yeah.
reason that I was able to do something quickly in comedy was because I made it my job.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
I literally quit my day job to where I was just like, okay, I'm a comedian.
Right.
And not everyone can do that.
No.
People have bills to pay. I was lucky that we were in a position to where my wife was like, she literally just looked at me and she's like, okay, well, I'm living my dream now. You made that happen. You go live your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just nice that I was able to do that. So then I had this full year to where literally comedy was all I did. I only wrote jokes. I would practice the jokes every single day. I have so many video of me driving down the road, turning my camera on my phone, and just doing a show.
Right.
Because I have nowhere to go to do shows because I'm not getting booked anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, because no one knows who I am. And I just had it in my mind that if I keep doing this, if I keep working hard in weird situations to where like I'm doing this show for me, and I'll message Grant and be like, is this funny?
Right.
And he'll be like, yeah, but do this. And it's like, we're literally putting on shows for each other through Facebook Messenger and stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah, during quarantine, well, yeah, but during the summer competition stuff, I would stay up late and record bits into the voice record on my phone and then just send them to him. It'd be me laughing at my own jokes. Like,
and it sounds weird, but it's like, that's the dedication that it takes for you to be like, I can't go anywhere else. I can't do anything else.
I need
still have
someone to say something about this thing that I'm working on. Yeah.
So then you get a message from somebody that's just like, oh, you just get everything you want. It's like, no, dude, I try very hard to get things that I want. And I don't have everything I want. I'm writing for Screen Rant, not IGN.
Yeah.
You know? But also, like, yeah, some great things are happening. And I did some shows with Dusty Slay, and that was dope. Like, that was the best. But it's not like I'm doing shows with Dusty Slay.
Yeah.
I did some shows with him.
Right.
It's not like, okay, well, I made it. It's just like, okay, well, now I have to go back to the open mics.
Right.
Right.
You know, now, because the work doesn't stop. You have to keep doing it, keep going,
Exactly.
keep going. So then it's almost like you kind of feel like it's a slap in the face whenever you get something from somebody that are just like, we've only been doing comedy for a couple of years, and you're doing, guess I've been doing it for 10 years, and why don't I get that? And I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm better than you because I don't think I am. I think
just
you're
like, I'm
funnier than I
very
am.
lucky.
It's just like,
Yeah.
I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But also, I did work.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like...
It's not like you didn't do anything.
Right.
I just didn't
did
make it
and,
known
Yeah.
that I'm doing all these
And
other
your
things.
attitude is this, and their attitude is, why not me?
Yeah.
Like,
Which is weird because
you just
I'm
want
stoked.
to do the work, and they want the accolades.
Yeah.
And I'm
that's the difference.
stoked whenever I see my friends get... Like, Joe Bates just hit number one on iTunes for his comedy
That's
album.
super dope.
If you haven't downloaded it yet, Joe Bates comedy album. You should check it out on iTunes right now. It's making number one again from the Cumcast. But I've met Joe twice. I don't know him that well. I've met him twice. Super great guy to me. Both times we did shows together, he was wonderful to me. Very funny. Like, he's one of those guys that's super funny on stage, and then you're in the green room with him, and you cry laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just a really, really good, funny guy. And, you know, when he hit number one on iTunes, I could have just been like, well, I don't even have an album. But I, like, messaged him, and I was just like, dude, I'm stoked for you. I know you don't know me, but I know you.
Right.
You met me in a green room twice. You don't remember me at all.
Right.
But, like, I like seeing you win.
Mhm.
Like, keep it up. That's the like. It's not a competition. I don't,
Right.
and that's what I don't get. Like, for me, if Grant is, you know, if Kyle Kinane is like, hey Grant, I want you to come, you know, feature for me and do shows for me, I'm stoked because, you know, to me it's just like, oh, he's winning. Like, he's
Mhm.
going up. That's great. Also, that just means that Grant's going to be put on more shows, which is more opportunity for me too,
Right.
because Grant's also my friend,
Mhm.
which means he'll be like, hey, I'm featuring for this guy. Will you come host or open? I'm like, yes. And it's just like, that's the way I feel like it should be fun, and it should be a club. And for a lot of people, and I don't mean to make it sound like it's not, because for a lot of people it is.
Yeah.
Like, the majority of people it is.
Right.
But it just kind of, whenever you get a message like that, sometimes it's like, I felt the need to be like, oh, well, here's how I did this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't feel like I had to justify it, but it's just like, well, yeah, but you don't see everything else I'm doing.
Right.
You know, you don't see all the other stuff that I'm doing. And there was a couple messages that I got from people. So, like, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh, I sent that. It wasn't you. It was somebody else. Because there was like 3 or 4 messages I did get to where some of them was a little bit ruder than the other ones. Some of them was just like, oh, that's great, but. And then there were other ones that was just like, basically almost like, who do you think you are? Like, sit down.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you've only been doing comedy for a few years and you're trying to sell t-shirts. Sit down.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I also am selling t-shirts.
When I heard you advertise your Patreon on your podcast, I was like, I think we should get a Patreon.
But my thing is, why not? The whole thing with me in the t-shirt was because someone came to a show. They'd been to like 3 or 4 of the open mics I was doing specifically to see me. And after the show one day, she was just like, hey, where do I get one of your shirts at? And I was like, I don't have any shirts. And I talked to Tyson Cox, and he was like, because I was like, well, I'm so new, I don't think I should do it, man. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to make myself bigger than I am, because I'm honestly not. Like, I know I'm worthless. So it's like, that's not it at all.
Well, you do have that penny on the Monopoly board.
There we go, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm worth a cent. But Tyson was just like, he was like, dude, if people are asking, do it.
Right.
He's like, and don't worry what anyone else says.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the biggest thing. He's like, a lot of people that say stuff like that, man, just ignore them. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And just, but also don't hate on them. Don't be, and I try not to be like the people that are messaging me that are like, oh man, like I can't, like, what do you think you deserve that? I'm honest with them. I'm like, I don't think I deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it. Like, I'm trying and I'm working and I'm happy and I'm blessed and I'm loving it. But like, dude, I also want you to get it.
Right.
Like, that's I love you. I'm sorry. Like, I really want you to get it too. I'm not taking anything from you.
Mm-hmm.
So please just like me. I just want people to like me.
Just fucking like me.
Yeah. Just play board
I'm a
games with me.
good guy.
That's all I want. Just want you to read books and play board games with me.
See, and that's one thing, especially when it comes to the title of our podcast, especially lately, people have been asking me, how'd you come up with the title? And I said, honestly, it's our last name. I said, if I wanted to be perverted, I said I would have just put 1M. But there's a podcast that already has that title, the Cumcast, with just 1M, and it is a sex podcast. Mm-hmm. I said, this category is comedy, and if you Google category, it's under comedy. Yeah. It's not under sex or anatomy or whatever the hell that is. But, and especially lately, though, people were like, well, I can tell that probably half the people click it because it's called the Cumcast, and then half the people avoid it because it's called the Cumcast. But I'm just like, it's not who we are. It's in the title. It's just a name.
Yeah,
it's just a name.
And what, they think it's going to be all about cum? Like, it's not.
It's just.
We can do 111 episodes just about that.
Right, it kind of is a title that makes perfect sense for you guys, and it's kind of just a silly title.
Right.
Like, it works both ways.
I was like, the Cumcast with 2 M's. I was like, it's short. It literally says exactly what it's going to be. That's it. And it's our 2 freaking bald-ass heads on the logo toasting 2 beer bottles, and it says our names. I was like, only preverts are going to understand that. Are going to think that's a sex podcast. I was like, that's it, man. Yeah. But when we first started, I was just like, do you think anybody's going to listen to it? We're just like, I don't know. Because we're not here for people. And just because 1,000 people listen to this every month doesn't mean that's why we're doing it. We're doing it because we like doing it. And if we get to a certain point where we do not like coming in here and doing this, we're not going to do it anymore. That's going to be the end of it. Yeah. If we don't like it, we're not going to do it. But we grew up in a small town. We have a lot to talk about. We like talking, and the way we string our thoughts and our words together, we make each other laugh hysterically more than anybody else on earth. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where we enjoy doing it. People listen to it, and we're lucky. We're lucky because so many people listen to it. So we are here for us because we want something to do that's fun, that we can release all of our shit and have a continuous thought and laugh.
People put it on Facebook or Instagram. We just do the show.
Right. Yeah, well, but that's why you guys are good at it, is because you don't have like an ulterior motive. Like, I feel like if you're like, I'm going to, like being a writer, like, oh, I'm going to write the greatest novel ever written. It's like, well, then you probably won't.
Right.
But if you're just like, I love writing. Like, going back to Stephen King, he just loved to write.
Right.
Like, he had so many rejection letters, it's ridiculous. Like, he's got this whole thing, this story about how he had a nail in his wall, and every time he got a rejection letter, he put it on that nail above his desk. And he just used that as like motivation. And one day he had so many rejection letters, the nail came out of the wall. And it's like a lot of people at that moment would just be like, I give up. But he got a bigger nail.
Right.
And it's like, you guys have no idea how many emails I send to bookers that I never get a response to. And rightfully so. Like I shouldn't, but at the same time, that one person out of 100 emails that I sent, I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Right.
But you just gotta keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And,
Right.
and I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's why you guys are successful at the podcast is
Right.
because you weren't doing it in a way to where you're like, we're gonna beat Rogan.
Yeah.
No.
We want to do it for us because we thought
Right.
that we would entertain ourselves
Yeah.
and entertain other people like we always have our entire lives. We've always been able to have the ability to make people laugh. And
Yeah.
that's what we want to do.
I do joke sometimes that I am the Joe Rogan of Indiana, but it's completely not true.
Not even a little bit.
No, not even a little bit.
No, no money, no fame, no muscles. So,
There's a little bit there. Right?
Yeah, I seen the car he's driving. You see where I went with it? No, but that's like my favorite people are the ones that are just doing their passion and good things happen. And I'm stoked for that. Like I love
right.
seeing that happen. I mean, I love whenever, my buddies message me and they're like, hey man, I'm doing this now. And I'm like, yes. But I'm also like probably toxic to a certain extent because I want people to live their dreams so much that I'm like, the other day my mom's boyfriend was picking me up and he's like, he can build anything. Like he's got this little like basically a sawmill pretty much in his
another family sawmill.
Yeah. Well, it's like got a lot of wood around me. But he's got a wood shop and he makes like these awesome chairs and tables and all kinds of stuff. And he was like, man, I just wish I could just do that. And I was like, quit your job. And he's like, what? And I was like, quit your job and do it, man. He's just like, no, I have to give your mom money.
It's almost like you freak people out. You're just like, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
But the thing is that I feel like if you can figure out a way, like if you really want something, figure out a way to where you can just make that your focus.
Right.
And I know I'm like, oh, well, yeah, but your wife paid all your bills. She didn't. Like I also had side jobs that whole time. That's just a big joke that I'm unemployed.
Right.
But like figuring out a way
Yeah.
to be able to focus on that thing. And I mean, I don't know, take all the money that you're spending on fast food and put it in a savings account to where you can have 6 months to a year of just being like, okay, well, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
know. I'm just saying like,
Coming up with a game plan.
yeah,
Right?
have an idea like I'm going this direction because the amount of like just clarity that you get from it, the amount of peace that you get from it whenever you're like, because my thing is I hated working.
Right.
And I'm not saying that like I'm lazy. I'm saying like I hated going to work at a specific time every day and making this guy money.
Right.
And I'd work a job for 2 years and I always got promoted. I always worked as hard as I could and then I would leave after 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the last job I had was for like 4 or 5 years. And I got really close with the owner of the business and I really liked the guy and I have nothing against him. But I would just look at him and be like, man, he's got this huge house. He's got this nice truck. Like he's, we go out to eat. He's always buying. He's doing really good. And I'm like, if I continue on this path, I'll never get to that point because the only reason he's able to do that is because he said, this is what I want. I'm going to make it happen. And then he did.
Right.
So ultimately, I was just like, okay, I quit. Which is probably not what he wanted. But I was just like, oh, well, that's just what I'll do. And it was just like, comedy is my passion. It's what I love to do. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to focus on this. And it was scary. And we were late on bills a couple times. And there was definitely times where I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'd have to go get a quick side job or something or do something real quick to make a little extra money. Or she'd have to work late hours. But ultimately, like, now I'm getting messages from friends that are like, how'd you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It's just like, obviously it was a good choice for me.
Yeah.
And the only advice I can give whenever people are like, how'd you do that? I'm just like, well, quit your job.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, but what you're really saying by that is make it a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because
Exactly,
there were
yeah.
times during that where I remember when you would drive Uber or something, and
Yeah.
you would make videos of yourself in the car in between Uber rides.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you were always doing it. So if it's a priority, you're not going to be like, oh, I have to go to work. I can't do comedy. It's like,
Right.
no, I'm still going to do comedy in the fucking car.
Yeah, you got to figure out a way. And that's the same thing with writing. Like,
Mhm. fucking write. If you want to write,
just
write. Like,
yeah. And it's like
don't wait for permission to write.
But it sounds so easy to just, and that's what I tell my friends, and I'm like,
it's just hard to stay consistent.
To do it. Yeah. And it's like, I had a buddy of mine message me, and he's like, I want to do that, man. I want to be a writer. How do I write? And I'm like, well, you know, with a computer, paper, typewriter, there's multiple ways of doing it.
Crayons, anyway,
you know. And I got he actually called me and was just like, man, great job with that. How do I do that? And I said a couple things. I got off the phone, and Chia was like, you seemed upset. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you just seemed like he upset you and you were very vague. Like you almost didn't want him to write because you're a writer now. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. And I didn't mean to by any means. I was just like, I don't know, dude, to write.
Yeah.
So I got off on and I thought about it. I'm like, well, I don't want to be a jerk and just be like, oh, only one of us, man. I ain't telling you I did right. So I sent him like all these different websites. And I'm like, if you want to write, all these websites have open submissions. You're not going to get paid for them, but you're going to be able to learn how to write an article. Mm-hmm. And most of them are going to say no. You're going to write an article, you're going to submit it, and they're going to be like, nah, not for me. And that's okay. You need that because you have to have that somebody saying no. That way you can learn how to shape it and do what they want, and also learn how to work with an editor. And I was like, so I sent him a bunch of them, and I was like, and then here's a website where you can go write, because like Upwork.com is a freelance website where you basically, if you get hired, you give them a little bit of your pay. Mm-hmm. And that's where I got that one job for writing that article about gym equipment. You write the dumbest stuff. Like, and every now and then they'll be like, can you write an article for this moving company on Google? And I'm like, you mean lie? Yeah. You know, but it's just like, there's so many weird jobs, but then you just do them because you're just writing.
Right.
So if you want to do it, just write every day. And if you don't have anything to write about, write anyways. Just make it happen. The same thing with comedy. Like, I'd be driving Uber, and I have nowhere to do jokes. So the people that get out of the car, I'm going to do a quick Facebook Live and make fun of them somehow. You know? And like make fun of the situation that's going on or whatever. And it's like, you just find a way, like Grant said, you just find a way to do it. Like, if it's your passion, just do it. And then eventually, hopefully, you know, it starts like all lining up. Right. And it's like, oh, now this makes it. This is why I do this.
Right.
And then you get like just a taste. You know what I mean? Like you'll get like a taste of like a great show or like something will come together, or you'll get a message from somebody that's just like, hey, I came to your show. I seen you. You're so funny, whatever. And you're like, yes. And then you don't get that again for like 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's like, ride that high. Don't look at it like, oh man, now I got to go to this bar show where no one's going to know me. No one's going to like me. It's going to suck. It's just like, yeah, that's the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you go do that so that way you can grow as a comedian, and you're going to like go, you have to bomb.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a big show like that where people are paying big money to see somebody, it's a lot harder to bomb. It's possible.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to bomb. But if you go to a bar show where they didn't even know there was comedy going on.
They're just there to drink.
Yeah, you're gonna bomb a lot. Especially
sometimes
if you're not
they're mad that there's comedy going on.
Yeah, and it's great. You know, because then it's humbling. Like, and you need that to be like, oh yeah, I'm not a comedian.
Right.
Yeah, like, I'm just a guy trying to make
Or like being a comedian just means being up in front of people saying jokes, and it's not always going to be a good situation.
Right.
It's just going to be comedy happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like I asked Cheyenne one day. We were just talking about like goals and what she wanted for her life, and she's going to school and she doesn't want to work at this place for the longest time. For much longer, and she doesn't know what she wants to do. I was like, what if I made enough money to sustain everything we needed, and you quit your job, do what you want. I was like, what do you want to do?
I love it.
I was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, what are you passionate about? She's like, I don't know. I was like, think about it. And a few days later, she's like, I wanted to have a retirement home for old dogs. I was like, sweetie, we're only allowed 2 at this apartment complex.
No, but I get it. But here's the thing is like, that's a passion that she has. And there's so many avenues to go to that. There's actually a guy, and I'll see if I can find the website. And she might already know. If I can't, I'll send it to her. To where there's this dude who travels the country in an RV and picks dogs up from, he'll go, like he just travels the whole country. He'll go into the pound and he'll be like, what dogs here are not getting adopted? Like no one wants these dogs. Mm-hmm. And then he takes them puts him in this RV, drives around with him, and makes these posts on social media that's just like, no one loves this dog. Who's going to love him?
Right.
And then all these pets are getting adopted.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that was a guy that it was the same deal. He was just like, I really want to help these dogs.
Right, exactly.
You know? So there's ways around it that she can kind of like ease her way into that.
Exactly.
You know, volunteer work at the pound or like something. Or just start a website that's just literally, these dogs are not getting adopted. Who wants to, you know, so like maybe not being, maybe just be the middleman in between the pound and the people that can have more dogs.
She wants the dogs. That's what she wants.
Yeah.
I was like, we're going to need diapers. I was like,
they're the worst, dude. Old dogs, like we always somehow end up, the dog that died, he was...
Oh, thanks for bringing that up.
But he was old. Nobody wanted him. Like my mom had him and she's quote unquote allergic to him all of a sudden. And she just didn't want him. And then gave him to someone else. They couldn't have him. So then they gave him back to her. And she's like, I'm going to have to send him back to the pound. And I'm like, he's old. Don't do that. Like no one's going to adopt this dog.
Right.
I'll take him. And I was like, we'll have him for 6 months. Everything will be fine. And then, you know, we'll just give him a happy send-off.
Hospice.
We had him for like 4 years. I'm like, when's he gonna die? It's like, and then once it was like, he just kept getting more and more blind, and then his kidneys started going out, and then we're all just like, the day that we had to take him in, like we're crying and everything, and I'm like, we weren't supposed to love him. Why did this happen?
Right. Yeah. We got attached. No, I told her, because she has an old dog right now, and I told her, I was like, if we have to go to diapers, promise me that we're not going to make this last forever. Like, I don't want this, I don't want the dog to suffer. I don't want to do that. I was like, promise me you're not going to do that, because I'm not doing that. And then she wants to do this old dogs thing. If we had, like, it could be an option in the future. But it's one of those, I was like, you have to get used to, you know, they have to like leave. Right. I was like, you can't keep them all. I was like, they're not stuffed animals.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's like, I just want to do it all the time. I was like, we're only allowed 2. I say we can't have more than that right now. Yeah.
But I love it, man. Figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Like I'm never happier than whenever I see people living their dreams. Like it's the greatest thing in the world is whenever I talk to somebody that's like, I want to do this. And then you talk to them a year or 2 later, and you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm doing that. It's like, oh, you just make my heart so happy. Yeah. Like, I just recently found out that every episode, at least that I know of Extreme Home Makeover is on YouTube for free. You want to talk about crying? It's just like, we watched it. We found out the other day. I think we were talking about it on the podcast last Sunday. And then I was like, I want to see if that's on YouTube. And it was. So that night we started watching it. And I swear, 10 minutes into the first episode, and there's like this guy. It's like he's like the president of his local rodeo and everything. And he had to adopt his nieces and nephews because of the situation they were in. And now they're all living in like this 1-bedroom home. And they're all crammed in. And all of a sudden this guy, Ty, comes in like, he's like, hello, Walker family. And I just start bawling my eyes out. And I was like, you see the dad come out and he's crying and hugging and the kids are screaming. He's here to help them. And I'm like, this is the America I want to live in. Like, it's like, that's the stuff I'm all about. Yeah. Like, dude, like if you need a good pick-me-up, go to YouTube and watch Extreme Home Makeover. Yeah. It is the greatest show, and it's my favorite show. Right. I'll say it. Right. And I literally get paid to write TV reviews.
That's kind of like if I want to work out, I'll watch My 600-Pound Life. That's
the Ruble household, and then in the Cummings household, we're binge watching Law & Order SVU.
Well, see, but Chia loves those shows too. Yeah. I don't like those. She likes them because the good guys always win. That's her thing. And I'm like, well, I don't like them because that stuff's real and it happens and it creeps me out. And I just don't want to see it. But like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I want to watch it right now, just thinking about it. Like, and then whenever I say, like, I get weepy whenever I watch it and I, like, cry, dude, I bawl. Like, I'm talking, like, ugly cry, and she is just like, I love you so much. And I'm like, good, because I'll never change. This is so good.
Well, that is time, everybody. We are overtime. So do you guys have anything to promote, anything to plug? Anything like that?
I'll be back with another guest that you didn't expect to bring me.
Hey, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
I'm just a comedy addict every Thursday, but whatever. People want to come, wear a mask.
I'll be at a Pacers game.
I'll be at a Pacers game tonight.
But they won't get that until
they beat the 76ers a few games ago.
See, that's
They're
what
going
I
to
did.
know when it comes out.
See, that's what I did when I went to Cincinnati, because we pre-recorded an episode because I would be gone. I was like, I think I came on. I was like, I had a great time, because we would have been back that day. I was like, I had a great time. We went here. Brian's like, you didn't go. I was like, technically, they think they don't know that. I was like, technically, we did.
That's the power of time, man.
That's right.
Oh, and look out for Over a Barrel or whatever we decide to call it.
Yeah. And if you want to find out details about when that'll happen, you can find me on social media too. I'm everywhere on social media, just at Indiana Ruble, Ruble. My website's jruble.com. And I always say that, but I don't post when my shows are. If you want to come to a show, find me on Facebook. Just Jake Ruble on Facebook, or listen to my podcast, Laugh and Be Blessed. It's fun. Cheyenne loves it.
It's Cheyenne approved.
Cheyenne approved. That's an actual thing.
We need a stamp.
One time, the first episode never aired. There's a lost first episode of me and Grant talking.
I had 3 beers and talked more than this.
It got weird. We talked about how Land Before Time is a lie because leaves do not taste as good as they made it seem like it did. After we got done, we just looked at each other almost like the next morning after a one night stand, and you look at the other person oh man, as soon as we were done recording, we just kind of looked at each other, and he was just like, we don't have to air that, do we? I was like, no, I don't think we will.
We've done that before.
See, my girlfriend loves those movies, and every time we're walking through the woods, or if it's fall time, she goes, motherfucking tree stars.
They don't taste good. That movie makes it seem like they're moist and delicious and wonderful.
Right.
Also, why don't people like moist?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
That's a topic for the next podcast.
People are off put about it.
You know what? I would like to make one suggestion at the end that maybe you guys have a rating system for certain things that's out of pig nipples.
Like
Grant,
6 out of 10 pig nipples.
Yeah, Grant showing up unannounced to this podcast with 3.5 out of 10 pig nipples.
That was 3 quarts of pig milk.
Yeah, what about when we do 0 out of 5 pig tits?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like it.
Or why don't we just do cum points?
No, I'm not coming back.
3 out of 5 cum buttons.
No, yeah.
Cum buttons.
You can't air this.
We have aired way worse.
We have. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again. We couldn't do the show without you people. Go and rate and review us if you want to help out the show. It helps out a lot. It gets us up there on the charts. Thank you so much. Always wash your hands, wash your ass. It's in the show.
All right, everybody.
Milk that chicken.
Thank you for tuning in. We will see you all next week. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Stay safe out there. And always remember, read a good book. Yeah. Drink a wonderful beer, non-alcoholic sometimes if you're into that.
Yeah, Busch has got one.
Yeah, that's right. Busch
and we still got to do that because we haven't done it yet.
I love the fuck out of you guys. Remember, when life cuts hard and life gets you down, you milk that pig, everybody.
Peace.
We out.